Coming to you from Blue Cruise Studio in Temecula, California, it's the Whiskey Throttle Show. Taking you inside the lives of the legends and leaders in moto and action sports. Today's guest is brought to you by Yamaha. Yamaha is the industry leader in two-wheeled fun and performance. Celebrating 50 years of YZ in 2024, the Blue Crew is still dominating shootouts and competitions. Yamaha, revs your heart. SKDA is the leader in motorcycle graphics. Driven by a combined passion for art and motorcycles, SKDA has become a global leader in the off-road motorcycle space. Their graphics can be spotted from a mile away with a unique design that blends speed and creativity. SKDA, search and supply of true art within moto. Troy Lee Designs, built for the world's fastest racers. TLD blends elite level protection with industry-leading style and performance. Moto, bike, helmet paint, casual wear, whatever your passion, Troy Lee Designs is waiting for you on the next level. Nihilo Concepts. Enhance your riding experience with superior products like the Start-Stop Conversion Kit, Fuel Pet Cocks, Frame Grip Tape, Lever Grip, Grip Donuts, Secondary On Switch, Billet Foot Pegs, Billet Throttle Housings, and so much more. Nihilo Concepts produces exceptional products, all of which are made right here in America. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here in Blue Crew Studios. I'm your host, David Pingree, and we've got a really fun guest today. A buddy of mine, we've known each other for a long, long time. A really interesting racing career, and now doing something awesome with road recovery. It's Mike Young. Bud, welcome to the show. Stoked to have you here.
Dave, it's a pleasure to be here. It's actually an honor, man. You're blowing up online, and this is where we get our media now. So,
well, we're trying. I'm just stoked to get people like you on here who've had a really cool career that maybe don't get the notoriety of an Eli Tomac, but you played a big part in the sport, and it was a huge part of your life. And some of the things you did were way ahead of your time, and which we'll get to. You were awesome. Kind of a pioneer in the four-stroke world before. You were four-strokes before it was cool,
Way before they were cool. These kids these days, they don't know what they have, right?
No, they don't. So we start all our shows with the Nihilo Concepts front-end chatter. Folks, if you're not familiar with Nihilo Concepts, get over and check out everything that they've got going on. Amazing products for your bike, bolt-on stuff, grip tape, really neat stuff, including a new nano tuner that allows you to tune your bike remotely with the help of a technician down there at Nihilo Concepts. So check them out. Tell me what you've been up to recently, man.
Well, I got engaged a year ago, so I'm almost a year in.
Is that right? I didn't even know that.
So
congrats,
super
man.
Awesome. Thank you. Yep, Denise is she's a blessing. So I was going through some tough times, and I was just looked to God. I said, you know what, Lord, when you bring me the person that you want me to be with, I'll trust that it's from you. And months went by, and all of a sudden, just randomly on this online dating app, I was off of it for months and got on, and bam, there she was. And we just connect and click, and she's got an awesome family. And she lives out in Santa Clarita, so she's out in the stomping grounds of like Kehoe and Mouse McCoy and all these guys that that I've always raced with. And anyway, so I spend a lot of time with her. We go to the beach, and I have this little scooter that Road to Recovery got us that attaches to my wheelchair. Super cool because it saves my shoulders. And we go just cruise the beach and people watch and get some sun and just kind of enjoying life like that. And I don't know, raising two boys. I got two boys. I got Trevor's 23, just turned 23, and he works at Disneyland. And he's always been my kid that loves to like sing and dance and do all that kind of stuff. And he was super talented. Like if he could ride a motorcycle, he got right on and just took off like it was no big deal.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The kid could have done something, but he's like, this is stupid. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
It's probably for the better.
Yeah, and then my little one, Jared, he works at UPS, and he throws boxes and trailers right now, but he's 19, so he's just a little kid. And
okay.
He's growing up, but that's it. I'm just, kind of keep myself busy.
What happened, dude? How did we have kids that are this old? My oldest is going to be a senior in high school.
It's unbelievable.
I don't even feel like I'm old enough to be a senior in high school. I look at the maturity of like a sophomore.
Mentally, we're still young. Yeah,
Gosh,
we're still young.
It's so weird.
It's crazy.
And you golf a bit with David Bailey, which I always am just blown away watching
him swing a club, but how you guys do that? Are you one-handed too, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's just crazy to me.
It's the trippiest thing is how Dave has just been such an inspiration to me since even when I got hurt, but we'll talk about more of that. But he figures things out, then he masters it, and then he teaches me. Like he's like, the Jedi master, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I've only literally golfed with him one time, but we've hit balls numerous times. I've just been a little too busy with work, road recovery and stuff. So, but he's hitting balls probably today. But he masters the one-arm swing, and we're both left.
Oh, you're a lefty too?
Yeah,
Okay.
and literally all through this whole wheelchair thing, we fit almost everything the same. We're almost the same person.
Okay. Same height. You are about the same, huh?
Yeah, he's just super brilliant,
Yeah.
He's super brilliant, and I'm just a motocross guy that hit his head a lot of times.
Well, he's just one of the best human beings that I know.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. You can't say anything bad about Dave. He'll give you the shirt off his back, and he's gone through some tough times himself, and I'm just so grateful that he's found Christ. His marriage is dialed and restored. His life is good right now, and he's living his dream. He's playing golf all the time. He's hanging out with his buddies, and he's doing fun stuff. Now he's got the jersey thing that he's doing with those new jerseys.
Those are really cool.
They're rad.
I think it's SMX jerseys. You can go on and buy his original number 11. Mm-hmm. Man, they got a bunch of different folks, but that David Bailey one's might be one I need to go get.
Yeah, I'm thinking I need one of each too. I think he's got two.
Does he?
Yeah, he's got two different ones. He's got the 11, I think the 23 or something. He's got two different ones from two eras.
That's rad. Well, let's get into your story, man. First of all, if you guys haven't been over to whiskeythrottlemedia.com, go check it out. We got moto, off-road, dual sport content. Electronic Ping is back, my original written column. I just love to write and missed it, so I thought let's bring it back. We got new merch, and if you need coaching, get over to elevatemotocross.com, elevateactionsports.com, or Elevate Motocross on Instagram. Really cool online platform. Let's get to it. Your story is brought to you by Yamaha, and we're pumped to have them as a partner here in the Blue Crew studio. Tell me about where you're from, because there was some mix-up online. There's another Michael Young who was a Kawasaki test rider racer, and I mixed some of that up. So you're from up north, actually.
I'm the old Mike Young. Yep, he's the younger one. We always called him Michael Young, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, I originally I was born in Arcadia, California, down here, and literally back when they didn't wear seatbelts in cars. And my mom stuck me in the front seat of the Nova and drove me all the way to Livermore, California, and with no seatbelt.
Yeah.
As a newborn, we do that all the time. I mean, that's just normal. And so I grew up in Livermore, and I still remember and recall all the fun things as a kid living up there. It was a really quiet little place. We lived next to a little airport, and it was cool. And we lived really close to Sand Hill Ranch.
Okay.
And so that was really close to where Livermore was there.
And they had GPs there, right? And
not at Sand Hill.
Hollister. I'm thinking of Hollister.
Hollister and Carnegie.
Okay.
Yeah, Carnegie was, I think, where Roger years ago broke the front end off his Suzuki. And I had that on video, but my dad decided to throw the video away. I was going to give it to Roger as a momentum. Hey, check this out. It's cool. Yeah, but we grew up there, so I grew up watching all the NorCal racers once I got into motocross.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what it was like. And we might have been the last. How old are you now? You're probably 52?
I'm going to be 55 this year.
Okay. I'm 50 this year.
Yeah.
We might be at least part of that last generation that didn't grow up with cell phones. Like you said, I have memories of climbing around my Suburban like a jungle gym when we drive anywhere. And we're in, windy mountain roads, snow on the ground. We didn't care. My parents were smoking cigarettes. I'm handing my dad beers. Like, that was just, that was it. Like, it was normal. We get canceled now telling everybody this, but what a cool era to grow up in, right?
It was the best. No distractions.
No, I feel like our kids now, man, they're missing something really cool. That freedom and that certainly some things are better. Seatbelts were a good idea.
Yeah.
But there was something about that era where we just didn't have so many. I look at it like now we have those little blow up bumper lanes at a bowling alley.
Yes.
Back then you did something stupid, you get hurt and you go, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I've learned my lesson. Now you're just bumping off there's all these guardrails up. I don't know.
Well, remember, we rode our BMX bikes with no helmets. We skateboarded with no helmets.
Oh yeah.
We're
still made it.
It's crazy.
So tell me about that era.
Yeah.
I didn't know about I don't know much about Northern California, but I imagine it was even, because it's not nearly as populated and built out as Southern California. But back then, it had to be just wide open spaces, huh?
Yeah, it was neat because in '74 is when I started riding. But my dad would take me, like in '73, he would take me to Carnegie and Hollister and put me on the gas tank of his like TM400 and ride me around. And oh, dude, it was the coolest thing. Dad's riding you around, you know. So I think he saw that and thought, wow, maybe I should get this kid a bike, you know. And I don't know if he asked my mom. Didn't. I don't know if he just bought the bike. I don't know what he did, but he came home with a brand new like 1974 MR50.
That was your first bike?
Yep, and I just turned 5.
Okay. Did you do any, that was pretty early. What were you doing before that? Any sports? Were you into much, or just BMX bike?
I did soccer. I was super into soccer when I was little, and I wanted something that you constantly were moving, and I rode my little BMX bike all the time just as a little guy. But there was really not a lot we could do then. As kids, we would just go, there was places to go play.
Yeah.
So we go ride our bikes in the trees and make little tracks and have fun. And that was what we did. And Livermore was a quiet little area. It was really cool. And I remember had these oak trees, and the first time my mom decided they wanted to take me out, and we had an old reel-to-reel camera, you know, and Dad's going to get the video while Mom's holding me and letting me get going. And there was just this little circle, and there's all these beautiful trees next to me. I remember the smell of the oak trees. And they got me some work boots. I was in my pants, and she was just running behind me, making sure I wouldn't crash. And dude, how sketch. I would never have done that with my kid, right? But I got this helmet that probably didn't even fit me. It was probably like a football helmet, you know? And I just went around and did little circles, and it was just so fun. So the next time they took me out, my dad took me to Carnegie. And him and all his buddies were going to go on a ride, and some unknown lady, just a wife of one of the people, was sitting there. And he goes, "Can you watch him? And when he wants to get off, can you help him get off?" I couldn't touch the ground. She goes, "Yeah, no problem." So I don't know how long you can go on a full tank of gas on an MR50, but I went that whole distance just riding in circles until it ran out and fell over.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know this lady was supposed to help me, so I just fell over, and she was like, "Oh my God." They ended up, my dad and his buddies got lost somewhere and didn't make it back. So it took forever before they came back. And so by then I'm sitting there just waiting and waiting. And he's like, "So sorry, we got lost," you know? And so my dad, kind of after that, I don't have a lot of memory of him riding. He kind of gave it up and said, "Let's try racing." I think that's kind of how it transitioned. He stopped. And then I started. And he was just a trail rider, just out having fun.
So he didn't ever race, but he just liked to ride,
Yeah, he just liked to go out and ride. And we had so many places to ride. They can go anywhere. I mean, literally, we could ride right down the street in the field. And no one cared.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, you'd be called a negligent father today doing that, right?
Yeah.
But did you hear Wardy's story about his mom would drop him off at Saddleback?
Oh, yeah.
Next to the
And leave
burrito
all the
truck
stuff.
guy.
Yeah.
"Hey, can you just keep an eye on him today? We'll be back tonight at 5 to get him." I mean, like, can you imagine?
Yes.
People would lose their minds today.
It's so crazy how different it is.
So you get this 50, and you raced right away?
So my dad, he was always about preparation. So he took me out, I think for 6 months straight. We went to the PAL track, and that was in Santa Clara. And people like Larry Wolsick raced there, the Larson brothers. I mean, there was big name guys that would go to the PAL track. They had a big track, and then they had the little mini tracks. I started on the little kid track. And
the Larsons, Phil and
Mike Larson.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a bunch of names. There was Alan Silhanick, who was good back in the day, and Alan, like, he started there too. So there was a lot of guys. And I always remembered I wanted to get to the big track. I wanted to get off the little kid track. But he would take me out there like 2 or 3 times a week, come straight home from work, grab me. And I don't remember if we had a car and he'd throw it on the back. I don't remember how it all worked. But we would get there, have my little work boots on, my little helmet, my little Honda jersey that, had vented. And I would just do laps and laps, and he would bring me in and tell me what I needed to do. It was actually pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
But he said 6 months, and he goes, "You're ready." I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm ready." Well, they took me in line. He goes, "Well, you're not a beginner. You're a novice." I'm a novice? I've never raced before.
I already booked up a class?
Yeah. What did I do? I never even got a trophy. But this is my first trophy if I get one, right? So he's all, "Yeah, you're a novice. You're not riding beginner." And I'm like, "Okay." So we line up, and that's back when they had the rubber band.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, okay, so what do you do? He goes, you wait until that goes and then you take off. And so anyways, I still have pictures of this day of me taking off. And I think I was like hole shotted, but I got passed. And I ended up getting second place my very first race. And I'll never forget, it was the coolest feeling as a little kid to get your first trophy.
Yeah.
And I was the happiest guy. So that just started it. And I was like, well, but I forgot to tell you this part. When I was sitting on the gate, I was crying. I ain't going to do this. I told him, I go, I am not racing. No way. And I'm crying. And my next door neighbor's like, you can do it. You can do it. And then put the goggles on. And right as he put the goggles on, the gate goes. And I just took off, right? So I didn't want to race, but I did.
It's so funny because I had the same experience. I rode a Weisinger around forever in very unsafe. Like I was on these little town roads, just mobbing around. But when my dad took me to Arizona to visit one of his buddies, Canyon Raceway, which I'm sure you raced at, and we borrowed a friend's bike, and it was a Weisinger, but with one of those pipes, it was real loud. And dude, I was so freaked out. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. They made me. I didn't even race the second moto, but he made me do the first one. Cried the whole time. But then it catches you. You kind of catch the bug.
Yes,
right?
It gets.
But
you.
it's scary as a kid.
Oh,
it's so funny.
Gosh,
I'm glad I wasn't the only one because I didn't tell that story a lot earlier.
That's okay. We both had the same experience. We're all right.
So you get this. You got after this second place. You're probably just like, when are we racing again?
Yeah, it was cool. I was like, I can't wait to do this again. And I think we practiced some more in between there, and then we started some racing like almost every week. And it got more serious and more serious,
Yeah.
Really serious. Because then Dad starts taking it serious and starting to find ways to make the bike better and make me faster and get me better gear,
Yeah.
Full leathers. Full leather. Like I had full leathers with little pads sewn into them. Yeah, and he's like, we can't do this. This is too heavy and too hot. We need cooler stuff. So he's trying to find ways to get better gear even, So he was serious, way serious.
Do you remember Lancer leathers?
Lancers, yep. Lancer had that thick. They had thick stuff.
Yeah,
like
it was
that
like
really Griff's kind of. Yeah. Griff's was another one.
Well, they were leathers, and then they went to that.
Yep.
I don't know what the material was,
It
but
was
it was.
a
You
thick
could take a knife and almost knock it through.
Yeah.
That was Sean Kalis's grandpa's company.
Oh, I
Lloyd
never
Meeks.
knew Lloyd had that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We all wore all that stuff all growing up. That's crazy.
So Carnegie is a huge place. Like, what a cool spot to go ride. I did a hill climb there once, and I was just going, wow, this is a pretty crazy place. Because you can ride around. Like you said, your dad got lost. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah,
OHV spot.
It's like a Glen Helen, but it's bigger. Yeah, but it's like that. It's a state park, and I don't know if it's even still around, but it was such a cool place.
Yeah.
I only went there a few times, and it was when you were little. I know when I was little, I was really scared. There was some, like, the first time I went to Escape Country, and they're racing on the side of these hills, and I'm going, I don't know if I want to ride today. I was really scared. It was gnarly. And that's what Carnegie reminds me of, is the gnarly stuff. And I was like, I don't know if I'm riding out there.
Yeah.
It was too sketch.
Who would you grow up racing with then locally as you started riding more and more and racing?
So when I looked back on, this stuff, I always go back and just like look at photo albums and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so cool. So I remember back in the early days, there was, Talon Volan, Tyson Volan.
Yeah. You got a picture of you and Talon that we'll put in. It's great.
Yep. So the Volan brothers. I had a guy that was my nemesis, Sean Wooten, and we were all NorCal guys. Bobby Moore. When I got more toward like later 70s, Bobby Moore, because I started racing with Bobby.
I thought he was from Arizona.
Yeah, I don't remember where. I thought he was somewhere in Reno or something maybe, and then he moved. But he was a NorCal guy for a long time. And then, you grow and you go into the bigger class, and then there's all these big dudes that you remember all these names, and you're like, wow. And I just remember Talon and Tyson a lot, and Sean Wooten, and there's probably a lot of other guys that I totally forget about, but those were the guys that I would see every weekend, and oh God, they're here today. It's going to be a rough day.
Yeah.
So, and Tyson was super fast. Talon was a lot younger then. And it was always funny. Poor Talon, he would always crash a lot back in the day when he was little. And he got over that, but I think he still crashed a lot in his
He still
older years.
crashed a lot.
But Talon was he was wide open or off the throttle. He didn't have like a middle,
Okay.
But the Sean Wooten that I used to race with, Sean, he still rides and stuff too, and he was really fast. Him and his cousin Jamie, they were like really fast in NorCal.
I remember that name. I can't place it, but I know Wooten.
He won Ponca years later, and we battled like we were both in different division. And he had NorCal, and I moved to SoCal then, and we battled, and he beat me by one spot and got the Yamaha that they were giving away. I was like, oh, it was crazy. So, I had some good guys, and there was probably a lot more.
So when did you, and I guess what races were you guys? You got kind of better, you're racing locally. What were the first kind of bigger amateur nationals you went to? Because was Ponca City going on then?
Yeah, so that was our big deal back then. Was Ponca City was huge. So that was in the 80s. We were racing. We were doing our NorCal qualifiers, and I went to Ponca City when I moved down here. So we did all those local races up there. We did Golden States Transcals. Those were huge back in the day. Yeah. I mean, you'd line up at the little 50 class or 80 class, which I was in, and there would be 20, 30 guys easily in your class. Easy, right? And there'd always be competition. So, and we would do our qualifiers. So we'd have NorCal NMA qualifiers. You'd have SoCal qualifiers, and then that would all qualify you to go back to Ponca. Ponca was the big thing, and the World Mini.
Yep.
And then Loretta's was kind of small back in my era, bigger maybe in yours, but super small in mine.
Yeah, it kind of that transition was late 80s, early 90s. That's when it kind of shifted because everybody would go to Ponca and then drive straight to Loretta's for that. But NMA kind of started petering out early to mid 90s, I think. Yeah. And then Loretta's became the premier event.
We had my dad it was interesting because my dad during the early 80s, my dad said, he goes, to get somewhere in this sport, we have to move. And he said, and it was 1981 actually. And he said, we're going to move to Southern California. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss all my friends, all these people, my racing buddies. It's like you're cheating on them. It's like, we're leaving you, we're going down here. But he knew that coming to SoCal would give us the opportunity to make this something. And his whole goal in his mind was, I'm going to make him a champion. He'll be a champion. That's what's going to happen.
What did he do that he could pick up and leave? Was that tough for your family?
It was very hard. It was very hard. He was working almost like two jobs because he worked his job it was in the computer industry, and he moved down here and had to leave all that. And I forgot what my mom was doing. I think she was working at a school. She was either working for a school up there, and then she came down here, worked for schools down here. But he came down here and started working in office furniture business stuff. Okay. So they were doing office furniture and stuff for like Kimball, a big company called Kimball, and some other companies. But he's like, he would go work all day and he'd come home and he would work in the garage all night. Like that was his passion. He was a tinker, he liked tinkle with things, and he was very meticulous. He loved building motors, working on the suspension. It was like pretty cool. I was very blessed to have a dad that likes to do this kind of stuff.
Well, imagine yourself going, hey, all right, my kid's really into this, but in order for them to excel, the best chance is going to be I got to move, which is essentially NorCal to Southern California is a whole other state. That is huge. Like I think back to even the commitment of time and money that my dad put into, like, all right, we're going to Loretta's for a week. Like the money that takes. Then we were coming to California 10, 15 times a year. I can't believe what they did.
I'm sure a lot.
Like your parents moved so you could go race dirt bikes.
Yeah.
Like,
thank you, Dad, for all that you did for me.
All the dads. It's just wild.
The sacrifices that they make. And now it's gnarlier now because the money. You don't show up in a pickup truck today.
No.
If you're not in a hauler or a sprinter, it's so astronomical now compared to when I grew up as grassroots. You could show up with their bike in the back of your trunk of your car and just pull it out. And you'd ride. And guys did. My dad was telling me stories about that.
We had a Ford Ranger. That's all we used until I was like almost ready to turn pro. We got a box fan.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah, I remember the David Pingree box fan.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, it was a very interesting thing, the sacrifices that motocross parents and sports parents in general have to make to see their kids through it, and they have to go through. Like my mom, she lasted she lasted until like 81, 82, and she says, I'm done.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's like, I just can't. My dad was very hard. I love that about him. I mean, he was very hard. Everybody knew my dad, Big Mike. When they'd see him at the track, they're like, "Oh, there's Big Mike." And they loved him. They respected him, but they knew it's like,
No messing around.
"Oh, dude, he's on him. Like, if you ain't doing, you getting smacked down, or whatever, and you better turn the throttle or he'll throw rocks at you on the side of the track." He wasn't messing around because he's like, "I'm investing my life into this. You better take it the same seriousness,
Yeah.
And that kind of will burn you out," which it did. Eventually it did. But when we got down here, it was really cool because we had a lot of tracks up there, but you couldn't just go riding. So they weren't just open.
Okay.
They were state owned. So it's like you had to go, like Fremont was like one of my coolest racetracks, and it was right down the street from the house, and they had the Fremont drag strip there. And so you'd race on Friday night and you get to go watch Don Perdome and these guys race their drag cars. It was the coolest place. And they had night races, and I just remember all these famous guys. I mean, Mike Tripes, Marty Tripes, Donnie Cantalupi. I mean, the names, I could give you names forever.
I'm sure Lackey back then was around,
he
right?
would be around. Some of the big, I'd only see him at like Hangtown.
Okay.
But I would see Billy Grossi, all these guys that are legends, right? I'm like, oh my God. And Wosick, and I'm going, oh my God, they're the pros. And here we are, these little kids, we're watching them. So, but we would go to Fremont because we could get there and we could ride, but there was nowhere to ride. When we moved here in 81, we moved to Laverne, which is over by San Dimas. It's kind of Glendora, San Dimas, all that area over there. And there was nothing to the east of us. It was basically like nothing. So my dad's all, ride wherever you want,
That's
so
cool.
But
Yeah.
then my dad, he actually took it so serious that he's all, I'm going to have guys pick you up from school and take you to Saddleback every day after school.
So what year was it you moved out here?
81.
81.
And I was
okay.
riding Yamahas.
So you went through probably the most, that window of 80s, 1980s was the biggest for Southern California motocross, I think.
Yeah, it was.
I say this all the time. People probably get sick of me hearing it. We talked about with Stu Peters, Golden States or any of those big events. You'd have heat races, qualifiers to get into the motos.
Yeah, today these people have no concept of what it was like. Plus, the bikes that we were riding then were so horrible compared to what they have now. I mean, I had an Italjet, and my Italjet would go backwards. I'd be on the starting line, and I'd be holding the clutch in, and it would be going backwards. And some of the times, the clutch didn't really work, and it would just push into the gate, and I would just sit there and go, oh, this is a horrible one. And it just, once the gate would go, then the bike would go, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
The bikes were so bad, right? And I had a little brother, and he raced, and he had a Italjet, so he was a Italjet sponsored. He raced for like 3 or 4 years, my little brother, and he got out of it quick. He goes, this sport's gnarly. Like, he broke his collarbone, and he'd come in with no visor on his helmet like half these guys nowadays. No, it was pretty bad, but he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. But his Italjets, they had like an inch of suspension. I'm all, what are you going to do when you got an inch of suspension?
Tiny little tires.
Yeah. Oh, but it was crazy in the 80s. The 80s was the biggest. It was very gnarly because you moved down here. It was a culture shock. You moved down here, and you'd line up on the gate at Saddleback, and there would be 30 other guys in your class.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, holy mackerel. It scared me. Like, I was actually scared for a while. I had to kind of get used to it because up there, we'd have 15 guys every weekend in our class. And it was no big deal. You line up with 30 guys, it's like into this little first turn. Yeah, and when you're a little kid, you're already scared as it is. Yeah. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, that was gnarly.
And I got to imagine the culture from Northern Cal to SoCal was different too. Like a little more intense down here.
Yes.
Competitive.
Yeah.
Where you guys were probably.
It was all family, and everybody was, we were all buddies, and it was neat. And 81 was really cool because when I came down here, I always remember it's when they had those, JT or somebody made those cloth gloves with those little sticky things on them. And I got those when I was down here, even though I think I was a DG sponsored guy then. But yeah, it was interesting. Everybody was riding with those terry cloth, whatever they were.
It's cotton.
Yeah, cotton gloves. I'm all, these are gloves?
Somebody made them look cool, though. Maybe it was probably Dogger or somebody.
Yeah, or Johnny. It was probably Johnny. Johnny O probably wore them. It was neat, though. When we got down here, it opened so many doors, though, Ping, because in 82, I was 11, and the Yamahas, their marketing company called and said, hey, we want to know if you would be interested in being our photo model for our brochure. Do you remember how cool it was to go to the dealership and grab the brochure for the bikes? Okay. So in 82 and 83 and 84, I was on the cover of those. And I got to do it at Indian Dunes. So I get to not go to school, got to go ride a dirt bike, and be on the cover of these 3
Brand
years
new
of
dirt
those.
bike.
Yeah.
Probably put you in new gear.
It was, they give you all the gear to wear. They tell you what to do. They show you. And so that was kind of neat because it led into later in my years, which we'll get to, being in magazines and stuff. And it was like, wow, this is so cool. And they show you how to kind of do it. And you don't really have to go 1,000,000 miles an hour. We'll make you look fast. And it was neat. And then Yamaha stepped up, and in 82 was my very first year of getting full sponsorship. And they gave us like 4 YZ80s. And I'm looking in my garage. I'm like, look at that. This is so cool. As a kid, it's the neatest thing. You go, your dad's like, I helped you get that. It wasn't just you, it was all the people around you, and it was relational. So you built these relationships. But we had 82 started. That's when it got serious, really serious.
That was the year.
82. Yeah.
What pro riders were you looking up to at that time? Like, who are your guys?
Kehoe was one of them. Oh, David for sure. He was young, but David, Bob Hanna. I loved all my NorCal guys. So I loved the Billy Grossi and all those guys, but they were all starting to go. They were coming out, and these guys were coming in. Wardy, of course. I would see Wardy when I would go to Saddleback. He didn't know who I was. And I would watch him ride. And I would go out there and try and find lines that he was riding because he knew Saddleback so good. So I would find his lines. And who else? There was a lot of younger guys too. Doug Dubach. There was Gary Bowman was his name. There was Chris Heiser. I loved watching these guys. Like even Chris Heiser, he had such a good riding style. And Dubach battled with them. Mike Beyer battled with them right around that same era. Okay. 82, 83-ish.
What about McDougal? I hear so much about this guy.
McDougal, I remember him. Bruce McDougal. I remember him, but doesn't stand out. Tarantino stands out. Okay. Jim Tarantino, that one stands out. He was the guy at Saddleback that was the fastest.
Was there ever any of these guys, because now all these guys, right? A lot of them were good friends like David. Yep. Were you ever disappointed or like, oh man, he's not like what I thought he was?
Yeah, there's been moments like that where you looked up to somebody and you thought, oh man, they're this, that, and the other. And then when you realized what they really were, you were kind of bummed out. And I'm not bringing up names because I don't want to.
I'm not asking you to.
Yes, and that's one of my good friends. And I'm like, this is gnarly. And but then to see them change and turn into a different person is cool. But yeah, there was a lot of guys. I mean, a lot of the guys that I raced with in my career, it'd be hard to have a friendship with them. They just weren't friendly people, you know, and they kind of going down a path of destruction rather than going down a good path. And I don't know, around 90, or was it 82, 83, I was struggling bad anyways, because I was so nervous because the competition was so deep that I was a basket case. I'd get on the gate and I'd just be so scared and so nervous and struggled. And I met a bunch of Christian guys that, brought me around the Lord, and it's where I accepted the Lord back in that era. And that helped, because without that, I was a mess with my dad pushing, mom saying, you got to get your grades up. I want to ride my dirt bike. And I was just going in the wrong directions. And so that time in 82, 83, and 84 kind of like turned me in a different direction, helped me realize what was important and get my head screwed on straight. So I wouldn't be that guy that people didn't want to hang out with. I'd hope that they want to, right?
Yeah.
And it just took me down a different path, which I think is great because that's what got me here today,
Sure.
I wouldn't look back on it and change it. Everybody always asks, they go, would you go back and change your life? I wouldn't change one thing.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. We'll get to more of that.
So who in that 82, 3, 4, now as you're getting more serious, who was winning down here? Who were the guys?
Oh, it was gnarly. My class, I remember me and Robbie Gordon would battle a lot. Before him even, I had Mouse McCoy. Mouse was like one of the fastest. Scott Brown. And believe it or not, Willie Surratt.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Willie. So we were kind of like the top 4-ish, 5-ish. And then, there was guys that were like a generation above me, which was like Rick Hemme, Bruce Bunch, Kyle Fleming. They were just a little above me, and I was just in that next tier. Mike Healy, obviously. Mike Healy he was mixed in there. Mike was younger, but he was faster. Like he was like the younger guy that was as fast as the bigger guys. He was always a step above everybody else. So, and then we had a kid, Colin Karcher. Who else? I mean, there's probably so many guys. I'm sorry if I left you guys out, but there's so many of them. They know who they are, but
there was
a million.
That window of 80s to early 90s, that decade, man, there was fast mini bike riders. Like I feel like the best mini bike class, like Carmichael was obviously great, and Stewart. There were some really fast standouts, Wyndham, but it wasn't as deep. That mid 80s, late 80s, there was a lot of fast kids. You would line a gate up, and 20 of them were like factory supported guys. Rippers.
83. I turned expert in 84. So 84, I'm riding for Yamaha still. It's funny because 82. Remember the cooler was on the radiator was on the steering.
That wasn't a great bike.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
So we had DMC build us one on the side. So I had the stock bike had it up here. My modified had it on the side. There was only three of us that actually had it back then. And Eddie Hicks ended up winning a bunch of championships afterwards with that bike. But we did, the 80 class was so popular back then that I don't know if you remember, but in about 83, we would be the intermission race at the Supercrosses. So we did Pasadena.
I don't remember that.
We did LA. I actually led the LA Supercross in like 84. It was 84 when they were going to 85 they went to white bikes, remember? So 84 was still yellow. I rode Eddie Hicks's 84 DMC Full Works bike. He rode the 85 version, and I hole shot it. Was out in front. The bike had so much power that I seat bounced this double, and I looped out. I was like, what the heck? I looped out, and the Renthal handlebars, because they're aluminum, right? They went all the way down, and I couldn't get them back up. So I got back up, and everybody's passing me, and I was like, oh, I had my chance.
That was it.
But it was the 80 class was the pro class.
Yeah.
You had the 125, 250, and 500 pros, and 80 expert.
I mean,
it's not like that now.
It was the Golden State race. They did that one at Carlsbad every year that was on TV.
Yeah.
American Sports Cavalcade.
It's so big.
And I think, didn't High Torque have a magazine called Mini Bike Action?
Yeah. Mini Cycle Action or
something like that.
Yeah,
it was just mini bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives you,
gives
you an idea.
Crazy.
There was that big of a market. You know?
It was gnarly.
Okay, so was there a point, I mean, you got obviously Yamaha support. Was there a point, though, where you started kind of winning and being the top guy, or really, did you turn a corner at any place where it was like, okay, that was a big step?
When I look back at the career, I won a lot of races as an 80 rider. Never won anything super huge, no big championships, but I did really good. I was always up there battling, for wins. And that's probably why they supported me. It was super nice. But I remember more later on in my life, like when I transferred from the 80 to the 125, I did it a little prematurely because I was just tired of the 80. I was too big and I couldn't ride it. Yamaha gave me all these 80s in 84, or 85. I had all these 80s and one 125. I was like, I like the 125. It's so fun because I started riding a 100 just to get used to the transition. And I'd go out on Saturday saddlebacks and battle against the 125 intermediates on a 100. And you'd have to work really hard, but I could beat them. And my dad's like, maybe you should ride the 125. And I had so much more fun. So I got the 85 Yamaha 125, and then Yamaha goes, all right, we'll just take those back and we'll put you on that. So I started in the intermediate. Funny story. So I started intermediate, and I can remember this transition because I went right to the front because I loved the bike. I loved riding them. Mike Byer got me all these trick parts because he had all the tricks for it because he was factory Yamaha at the time in 84. So he gave me all those parts. And I remember battling Mercedes Gonzalez. And I'm laughing.
What year?
This was 85.
Okay.
And Mercedes was so fast. She was winning 125 intermediate. And she's the woman. And it's like, everybody's like, no way. And, oh, yeah. I'll never forget at Carlsbad. She won the first moto. I got second. My dad's all, you better pick it up the next moto. And I was like, dude, she's so fast. And she was. And so second moto, I got the whole shot. I'm way out front. She's reeling me in. And I'm just doing everything I can, right? Not to fall, but to go as fast as I can. And she's catching me. I'm like, if she passes me, my dad will never let me ride again, even though he loved her. But he's all, no way. She can't beat you. Well, she almost caught me. She almost did.
Yeah.
She came so close, and I just held on, and I got the win. So I went on and started winning. So Trans-Cals and Golden States, I could win the intermediate class. But then the intermediate class got packed with guys. And I'm like, it got gnarly. But I didn't last too long there. I think in 85, 86, and 85, 86, we had, Brian Pryor. I think Jimmy might have been racing with us then, Button. I remember that the Kyle Fleming Memorial race that we would do in Arizona, and my gate would be full, and every one of those guys was fast.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle Lewis.
Gaddis.
Yep. So Kyle and all those guys they were rocket ships, and there was a bunch of guys. I can't remember all the names, and Kalos was obviously in there.
Yeah.
He moved to pro right after that, I think. So he went straight up and went right to the pro class.
Yeah.
He was quick.
That's funny. Mercedes passed me in a practice day at Mammoth once, and I got some stuff for that, but she was fast.
She was fast.
I don't think people know how fast she went at the time.
She was unbelievable.
I've been trying to get her on here. She has a great story.
She does. She does.
Okay, so what about some of the amateur nationals? Did you ever have a good showing at, Ponca or World Mini?
Yeah, so Ponca, the best I did at Ponca was the year, unfortunately, that the guys all got killed. My dad was one of the announcers, and so it was kind of a weird deal. So I tied with Sean to win the I think we were in the intermediate class then, and they were experts. And Sean and I tied in almost on points. He beat me by 1 point and won the motorcycle. And so we're going to the we were getting ready to go to the award ceremony. And I remember we're waiting, and Ron Hendrickson's talking to my dad, and I think it was Hal Sanguinetti, and they're like, something happened.
Hal Sanguinetti.
Yeah.
And blast from the past.
Yeah, and they're all talking, something happened, we got to hold off, and they have all the Yamahas up there and these big trophies. Dude, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then we got news that happened, but that was kind of devastating to come off of such a high of almost winning this bike to going and losing three amazing guys. It was just it was a crazy hard hit that day. And so that was, I don't remember back to a lot of those little championships, but I know I won a bunch. They're in my photo albums, but I don't really go back to any of that because to me it didn't make any sense and didn't mean anything to me. What meant to me was later in my life, the stuff that I accomplished. But I did switch, I was going to tell you this. So I went from a beautiful Yamaha to 86, I rode a Cagiva.
So I remember seeing not only photos but some result stuff. So
yeah, people are like, "Why would you go?"
How did that happen? Tell me about that.
Well, the Cagiva was winning the championships in Europe in 85, and this local dealer, Howard and Sons in Phelan, was like, "Hey, we'll give you guys deals and we'll get you some bikes and parts and we'll help you out." And we're like, "Okay." So the Yamaha thing kind of went away. And we're like, let's pick up this Cagiva and see what it is. Oh, my God. The thing was so fast.
Okay.
It was a rocket ship. But it wouldn't stop, and it didn't handle it all. Like, it was horrible. And so I had a rough go. I had a rough go in the 125 intermediate class that year on that bike. It was just rough, but, it was so fast. But it taught me a lot, and it got me in the door when the bike was going to get better.
Okay.
Because the following year, in 86 or 87, I was going to take the biggest step of my life. In 87, I'm going to be 16 and I'm going to turn pro.
Okay.
And I did. And so I turned pro at probably the worst time. You line up on the gate, and there's like AJ Whiting, there's Dubach, there's, you name every top guy in that era, they were all on the gate, in the 125 class. And you're going, did I pick the right time to do this? So it was very difficult. It was even Healy was on the team, AJ Whiting. There was guys, and we had, it's myself, Healy, AJ Whiting, and Dubach, I think were the four Cagiva guys. I was just a young kid, and Mikey was young too. He was younger than me. I didn't even know that. And that was the year. That was the year we went to Huron. And do you remember Huron?
I remembered. I never raced there.
Okay, so Huron for Golden State was probably one of the gnarliest tracks. Like you'd fear going there. Kind of like guys probably fear Glen Helen because it was so gnarly, right? Huron was our Glen Helen. It was just the gnarliest track.
Just got rough and
or
what? Yeah.
Just so rough, so gnarly. You just wanted to get out of there in one piece. That's literally it. You didn't want to break something. And I'll never forget, that was the year David got paralyzed. And that was my first pro race. And
same weekend?
That same weekend. That was my first pro race. and it was in like an aqueduct, and they had grass up on this hill, and we were the second practice. So it was like Healy or Dubach and I forget who it was. We went and rode up on the hill and just sat on this grassy hill and watched, and David crashed right in front of us. And so when that's the first thing that you see as a pro, is hard, very hard. The day didn't probably go super well, and I probably fought just to be in the top 20, you know what I mean? But it was just rugged. That was my hero. Yeah. And I'm like, that just happened. I didn't want to race that day. So, and the bike was better in 87 than, of course, 86. It finally had upside down forks. It had better brakes, but the Cagiva was such a rocket. It was so fast. But I kind of matured a little bit that year and started to get a little bit better, and I was able to start giving them a run for the money, you know? And so it did get a lot better. And I don't know if it was 80. Yeah, it was 87. I mean, I got, it was 87. I'm pretty sure it was 87, 88. Yeah, 87. Near the end of the year, I was running up front. And we went and did the 500 GP up at Hollister, and Ricky Johnson won on a Honda. I think Ronnie was there, but he faded. And who else? And Pekka Vakonen. And Gobors and all those guys were there, right? Gobors didn't have a good day. He had really bad arm pump. And we were the support race. And I got like 5th place or 6th place that day.
On a
Cagiva,
250?
On a 125 Cagiva.
Okay.
Yeah, and Pekka Vakonen, and Ricky can remember this, he gave Ricky fits. And he had the trippiest style. Pekka would sit down on the back of the bike, and he just hauled, right? Well, Cagiva didn't have a 250. That was the Works bike. So this is back when we had Works equipment, which they don't know what Works bikes are nowadays. These bikes they're riding now, they're production bikes with some bolt-on parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These were Works bikes, hand-built. That Cagiva was just like the 125, a rocket ship. So the race was over, and Cagiva goes, "You did really good this weekend." I'm all, thanks, you know. Healy's been helping me. We've been getting the bike sorted. And they said, we want to let you borrow the Works bike for next weekend.
What was next weekend?
Transcal. And it was at Adelanto. And I was like, really? I haven't ridden 250 ever. So it's like, that'll be kind of scary. And they go, yeah, you'll have fun. We went down to the office, which was down by Ascot and Gardena. Picked up this crate, full crate, ready to go. Take the crate home, uncrated it, brand new Works bike in there.
Oh, it wasn't Pekka's bike.
It was his brand new like backup or his backup race bike or whatever. So it had everything the same. And they just said, just go have fun. And we put it together and literally took it to Adelanto that weekend, and I raced it and won both motos.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was crazy. The thing was so fast, handled so good. I mean, I never even set it up. Just got it out and took it and raced it. The Cagiva was unbelievable. So that was 87. So that was pretty cool. And then they switched to white. Do you remember when Cagivas were red?
Red and gray. That's how I remember them, yeah.
They went to white the next year. So that's how I always remember the years, was what color the bike was.
That year where they were still red and gray, Healy came over to Canyon. That was my local track.
Yep.
And I don't know what he was doing over there, but that was the first time I ever seen one. And I remember like the silencer looked really cool. And I don't know, just had a real...
Yeah, they had a clamp on the end of the silencer that you could undo to pull it out and pack it. It was silver.
It was cool looking. It was just a very different looking bike.
Yep.
I remember it sounded really good. And I remember watching him ride that thing going, wow, what the heck is that?
Yep.
But they were that good, huh?
They were so
why
fast.
in the world wouldn't Cagiva manufacture, like take that Works bike and go, okay, let's put this into production?
So 88, that's when the bike came out. So the 87 Works bike turned into the 88 production bike.
Okay.
And so in 88, when I got the bikes, I got 125s and 250s, and that bike was it was unbelievable.
So it was as good as the Works bike?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I don't remember in 88 if that's when GFI had their series. I'm pretty sure Goat was having his series in 88. I think it was right around there.
Probably
88,
that's
89.
where it started, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember I won the GFI series on the Cagiva, and it was the white one. It wasn't the 89. I want to say it was the 88.
Okay.
Yeah, it gave me like a really cool gold little ring. I mean, it was cool. He took it up a little bit. Like Gold CMC was taking good care of us. Stu was always took good care of us. But Goat gave us like 150% payback. It was nice.
He was like Stu was a little bit before my time. I raced a lot of his events, obviously, but Goat to me, man, he really cared about the riders.
He did.
When we put on the Elsinore Grand Prix last year, he came out.
Oh my gosh.
I hadn't seen him in years. I called him to ask some questions about it before we did it, but he showed up. He goes, man, I'm just really stoked for it. I wanted to come check it out. And I was like, dude, really? You drove all? I mean, you didn't have to. That's cool. Like, he really genuinely cared.
He's legit.
I love that guy. I've tried to get him on this show so many times. He just won't do it.
He was another one of the heroes that I looked up to. We'll get him in here one of these days. I talked to him here and there because we need jerseys signed for Road Recovery.
Oh, okay.
And
we
got a hold of him.
He's like, no one wants to hear what I got to say, Ping. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I'm all, are you kidding me? Like,
even David said Goat was awesome in his day. So he was
he's just a good dude. He's another really good human being.
I loved his series. I mean, we had Bader Monet, Kyle Lewis, Michael Craig. Yeah, I didn't want to forget Michael was in my
Stingray
thing too. And who else? Yeah, I said Manley. All
would
those
have been
guys.
like Phil Lawrence even, or was
Factory Phil? Yeah, Factory Phil came in. He came in the 90s.
He would have been a little younger. Yeah, you're right. Couple of years.
Because he became a teammate of mine in like 91 and 92. So when we were on Suzuki's in 93. But yeah, there was a full gate. You go to Paris, it was a full gate.
Oh yeah.
And you were like just lucky if you could get a good start and be up there, because otherwise it was a bad day at Paris. So
it was tough.
Yep.
So did you do any? You moved to pro then in '87, you said, right?
Yep, '87.
No Supercrosses that year or in '88. No motocross nationals.
I did, yeah. So I did. I was a horrible Supercross rider.
Okay.
Horrible. Let's put that out there. That was not my specialty. I could test it later on in my years. I tested it and was doing really good, but it's like I just wasn't great at it. But I did 87. I want to say I tried Anaheim, and I don't think I qualified. I think I crashed. 88, I crashed. And 88, I started riding the Mickey Thompsons.
Okay.
So I started those on the 250 since we had a 250. So I started that. That gave me a little bit of taste of what that was like. I was more outdoors. I wasn't really the indoor guy. And yeah, I got a little taste for it in 88, but I didn't really start really doing good in Supercross till later on, like showing up and being there, you know, and making main events and stuff. Because it's hard to make a main event. People think it's just so easy.
No.
They don't understand what's involved.
Well, the hard part, and the further back you go, the worse it got. There was nowhere to practice it.
Nowhere.
Like we were sneaking out onto Dianza.
The Yamaha track.
The old Yamaha track.
Yep.
By the time I was just turning pro, that was our... We'd go into Dianza, and it was all covered in weeds, and you just kind of run it in and ride that track, which was all watered down and melted, right? But best you could do.
I had no setup. We'd throw stiffer springs in, and it's like, is that the right thing to do? Bike was just horrible, horrible. And it just, the outdoor tracks were not like the indoor tracks. They were so different, and it just took a different riding style. So I wasn't good at it, so I just never did it.
I'm sure you did the same thing. Like, I remember early on, when you didn't have a place to go, you just go to Star West.
Yeah, Star West was as close
like
as we
a
would
tight
come.
motocross track, and you think, well, it works good at Star West. Should be fine at Anaheim.
Oh my gosh, Star West did have some pretty good jumps there, though.
I mean, it did, but that is not Supercross, right? Then you walk into the stadium, we're like, oh man, look at this jump face.
Well, let me tell you my Supercross experience. So, in 1988, since we're talking about that year, I'm 17. I have to go to downtown LA to get a visa to leave the country. I got invited to go race this Australian Supercross championship. There was 2 races. And I'm like, all right, I'll go. And Cagiva's all, yeah, we got our importer. He'll set you up. All right, I'll go. Oh, my God. Jeff Lee's ran it or something. I forget. I think Jeff Lee's dad ran the whole thing, and Jeff was the coolest guy. And I go there with Ross Pedersen and Fred Andrews, and I forget who else.
Okay.
And that bike's not a Supercross bike.
No.
It was horrible. It was the worst experience of my life. I'm all, do I know how to ride a motorcycle? What is wrong with me?
Were the tracks gnarly?
Yeah, and they had those wood jumps, like you'd have dirt onto wood tables. It was so sketchy. Ross did great. I think he won, and I was just like, I made it to the main, and I finished, but I was happy to go home. But that was my first out of the country experience, and it was on a Cagiva in a Supercross. And I was like, this isn't my gig.
It's hard to get you confident when everything is that weird and uncomfortable and unnatural feeling, right?
Yeah. And one more thing, really, on 88, because this leads to where we're going to go anyways. 88 is the first year that I also got invited down to Costa Rica for the Cagiva importer.
Okay.
And so in 88, I went down there on 125 and a 250 because back then, remember, we would ride 2 classes. Like these guys now are riding 1 class, right? Every weekend I rode 125, 250, 125, 250. So anyways, we went down there and I didn't know what I was up against. I mean, Jim Hawley showed up. He's like a legend to me, right? I had a bunch of guys that were there, and I was like my first year. I'm going, oh my gosh, all these guys came to Costa Rica? Like, couldn't I just come down here myself?
I thought I was going to come clean up.
There's a bunch of guys here. And I ended up, I was riding 2 classes once again.
Was it the same venue every time?
It was not the same as the Supercross one that we're going to talk about, but it was this outdoor track. It was up on this hill. It was super gnarly, super rad, though. It was, for me, it was like Carlsbad.
Okay.
Slippery, off cambers, and gnarly. So it kind of felt at home. And it was me and Billy Whitley and Mercedes Gonzalez, and Danny Storbeck came, I think, the next year. So 88, it was us 3, and our mechanic, Moriali. Did you ever know Moriali? Moriali was the funniest, coolest Sicilian mechanic you'd ever meet in your life. He was hilarious. He was Mike Healy's mechanic. And he just always, bad words come out of his mouth. Always. And he never had any good words come out of his mouth, and he'd always be cussing in Italian at us, but you never were fast enough. Even if you're winning, he was throwing rocks or kicking you. He was hilarious. I love this guy. So Moriali's down there, and he would go down and set up all the bikes, and this dude's got no shirt on, this little tiny Italian with these little glasses and no hair, like he's almost bald, and he's ripping the thing down the street, popping wheelies. He was a road racer. Okay. And so he's just rod, grabbing gears. He's all, this one perfect. This one, your bike. Okay. Oh, this one, good. This is your bike. And, he would give everyone their bike, put your number on. All right, that's it. And he proved it. And so if you didn't do good,
it was on you.
It was you.
No, I take it down the street very fast.
And he was, I'm telling you, so we're there, and he's looking to me like, you win every class. And I said, okay. So 125 was our first race, and Mercedes was in a different class than us. She didn't race with us for some reason. I don't know why. But Billy and I were the guys, the Americans in this one. And Billy got the whole shot, and I got like 3rd or 4th, and I'm catching him. And like the 2nd or 3rd lap. And I'm like, I'm going to get him. I'm just going to take my time and get him. I don't want to fall. All of a sudden, the bike just dies. I'm like, what the heck happened? Somebody poured sugar in the gas tank.
No way.
I'm not joking. And I'm like, how did that happen? Like, somebody jacked it and bike blew up. And so anyways, that 125 class went out, right? I'm like, I'm done. So I'm like, great. I come all the way down here to win some races, and my bike's breaking. I'm like, this is not fair. There's a long ways to come for that. The 250, I redeemed myself. So the 250, I whole shot at both motos, battled their local guy. He was super fast, and he came here and did really good a few times. His name was Adrian Roberts.
Yeah, he was fast.
That's right. You remember Adrian.
Yeah.
So Adrian, he came here, and it was pretty gnarly. He was giving me a run, but I just outwitted him and beat him overall and got him and got the little championship from him. And it was cool because that was a really big step for me in 88 to win something big like that.
Yeah.
Transcal's Gold States, they're big. But to go out of the country somewhere you've never been and to taste it there, it was big. And they took it serious.
Especially in a Supercross that you had said you kind of struggled in that, so to go win that had to feel good.
Yeah, it was.
Like
it was
a step
neat.
forward.
It was really cool, and it was funny because I give Jim Hawley a hard time to this day. I go, dude, I didn't even know you were out there. I never saw him.
Oh, really?
Never saw him. He was just out there having a good time. He didn't care. He probably was up
probably
the whole
out
night.
all night.
Yeah, so he didn't even remember
building up his Polaroid collection.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was totally crazy.
Well, that Adrian Roberts, I can't remember if he was there in '93 when we went, but he was Ernie's hero. Like Ernesto,
yes.
that was his Jeremy McGrath or
Yep.
Ricky Carmichael. He looked up to him.
When we get to, I think it was 89. It was either 88 or 89. When we get to which we're basically there now, but if we get to that Supercross, okay, and the same place that you and I went to, Ernesto, that's where he started, and I was there. They called him Lobito, mosquito, right? And he couldn't even touch the ground on an 80. And I want to say it was right around that year. It was 80, and it was just before you I might have been a few years after. It might have been like 91.
Okay.
But, oh, my God, I'll never forget. That's where I first met him. He was just a little, tiny little guy, you know.
Yeah.
Still a little guy, but he was a little, tiny guy. And, yep, he started right there in that little stadium that you and I raced at eventually.
Yeah, from that to a couple of 125 Supercross titles, huh?
It was crazy, dude, crazy.
So take me into 89. Still with Cagiva?
89 was awesome. 89 was, it gives me goosebumps because the 89 Cagiva was so much better. They got rear discs now. They have 19-inch rear wheels, which no one had yet. They were all running 18s. The bike was so good. And it still had all its power. They dressed them up and made them look better, too. They were really good bikes. What
do you think the reason was? Like, there's some people that argue we should still be running 18-inch rear wheels because that extra cushion in the tire just gives you such a softer feel. All off-road guys obviously use it. Why did we go to 19? What was better about it for us? For Supercross? Was it a Supercross
Did you
thing?
see my smirk? Did you see my smirk?
No, well, this is why I'm asking.
So, being a guy that got to ride on them early, later in my career in 90, what was it? 93? Yeah, 93. Just a brief little piece. 93, I'm the HRA test rider for Honda.
Okay.
Rich Taylor was the 250 guy, and he was hurt.
Okay.
So I was a 125 guy. They moved me up to the 250. I took over his job. We're at Carlsbad testing, and they said, try these two wheels. So I'm testing the wheels, and I'll never forget this. They said, we really want your true opinion of what's better. They said, is it this one or this one? I was seconds faster every lap, like 2 seconds faster with a 19 over an 18.
Really?
The 19, you didn't feel all the chatter. The 18, you felt every single, remember how choppy Carlsbad is? Every single bump you'd feel with the 18. The 19, it just was so much smoother and it tracked a lot better. So when I go back to the Cagiva, I go, that's why that bike was so good. Because in 89, we had 40 guys on the Golden State starting line, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was gnarly. And if you can go back to 89 and go look at the Golden State, they were we had the Golden State Nationals on TV. It was the sports cavalcade. Stu had that all dialed. 125, 250, 500 class, right? And on the 125, 40 top guys. Billy Whitley even came out to race it. Healy was there. Emig was there. Craig was there. Todd DeHoop was there. Talon Volan was there. I could give you a list of names. Jamie Dobb was there. Everyone was there. And the Cagivas hole shotted the first moto, both of us. And I ended up in the 125, I ended up that day, I think, 3rd overall or 4th overall. The 250, I got 3rd overall. So I rode both classes, 4 motos. And it was amazing because the bike was so good. I mean, I could come out of the corners with that 19 and it would just rip. And Denny Stevenson that year was actually testing a 19 on his Kawasaki.
Mm-hmm.
So he had that. That's right. Denny was there too. Denny was in the 125 class too. Denny petered out halfway through. He did. He tired out. His tongue was dragging and he went backwards.
He was probably out all night too with Jim
He
Holly.
might have been. Him and Jimmy, man. But 89 was great. And Golden States were good. GFI, I think I won another championship at GFI that year. It was a good, locally, I was winning all the time. It was awesome in 89. I loved it. I had so much fun.
Well, this is the first time you showed up in Supercross, at least in results.
Yep.
February 89, you did the San Diego Supercross and got 7th in the 125 main on a Cagiva. And I think that might be the best Supercross finish ever for Cagiva.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that was my best one too. Yep, that was my best finish as well.
89.
7th.
Who would have won that race in 89?
I don't know. It would have been either Kyle or Craig.
Craig, maybe?
Yep, Kyle, Craig. We'd have to look that up.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to look.
That would be a good one to check out.
Okay, so that year went great. I didn't see you do any, or did you do some nationals?
So I did, that year I did go back to Costa Rica. And that year I would have won Costa Rica again and beat Adrian. But the night before the race, we got in a really bad car accident. And it was Billy Whitley, me, Danny Storbeck, and Mercedes. And the driver was the team's wife, Lena. And we were just driving home from eating. And we got sideswiped by a bus that was going about 50.
Oh, man.
And all I remember is blacked out, and I just remember I'm sitting on the side of the street, and I'm just bleeding like profusely out of my mouth. And I had a brand new AXO shirt. When they had this like tie-dye looking AXO shirt, it was solid blood. And I'm like, and Billy Whitley's like, you're going to be good, dude. You're going to be good. Luckily, we knew some people that were high up in Costa Rica, our Costa Rica. Yeah. So we called, and Carlos Roberto Arias, and Carlos goes, we got my surgeon. I'll call him right now. He'll come down and he'll take care of Mike. So he brings a plastic surgeon. My lip was completely like ripped completely, like my tooth or something went through it, and it's an artery. So my whole lip was just blown out.
Oh man.
And is bleeding, and I can just feel it and taste it. It was just horrible. And so the plastic surgeon had to put me all back together. So I had to race the next day. And Moriali's there again, okay? You're racing. You're going to win. You're going to win. And it's like, I can't even focus. I'm on drugs. I'm all jacked up. My lip is, I have pictures. My lip is so big that I can't even talk, right? So I had to stick like cotton in my mouth and to suck the blood up while I was riding. It was gnarly.
Gosh.
The surgeon even came to the race. So I didn't win, unfortunately. I got second, but I got second both motos. I beat everybody else. And I was bummed because I was like, man, I wanted to win again, But it wasn't meant to be. I guess it wasn't meant to be. But then we started doing those Mickey Thompsons on that thing, and we did really good on the Cagiva 250.
Did you?
Yeah, it wasn't set up for it, but we did good. We did really good.
Were you making good money in those?
They, in our era, I guess, good money. Yeah,
Decent,
enough.
right?
Yeah, well, just every weekend, just imagine, every weekend, 2 classes. You win both classes. You made some pretty good money. We didn't have contingency.
Okay, when did the contingency kick in? Because in my amateur era, that's how I paid for racing.
Mm-hmm.
Suzuki bucks, dude. I don't think we could have kept going.
It was going around that time frame, but it was on Jap bikes.
Oh, that's right.
You had to have a Yamaha, Suzuki, or a Honda, and it was mostly Suzuki and Yamaha, I think, that paid the money. Cowie, I don't remember a lot of Cowie bucks, and I don't remember anything else. So I remember just the 2 brands.
I think Honda had a card, and they would
give you a credit to go to the dealer.
Something like that. But the Suzuki money was insane.
Yep.
You could Golden State, Transcal, GFI didn't matter. It was $300 a class.
Mm-hmm.
I was racing at least 2 classes, like you, stock mod, super mini, or whatever it was. It's $1,000 a weekend as an 80 rider.
Mm-hmm. It was, so that's the thing. We were making money, but we were making it racing, and it was paying pretty good. I mean, I didn't get a salary until I got way on in my racing career. I didn't get money until way on in my racing career. So it was like, that was kind of scary.
When you were doing the Mickey Thompsons, the tracks were terrible.
Yes.
It was not really fun.
No.
But were they doing the thing where you had a heat race and you started at the back the faster you were, and then you got points and money for passing? It's actually a cool idea for fans.
A lot more money.
So I did the one at Sun Devil Stadium in '93.
Okay.
Again, one of my very first pro races that season was my first year. And I'm like, well, I don't care about points or money. So I sandbagged it in the heat, started up front, hole shotted. I had to pass one guy, actually, and took off. And I won.
Dude.
Because I wasn't worried about the points. I'm like, I'm only doing one of these. And one in my hometown. It's the only one I ever did.
I'll get to tell you a cool story about that when we get there. We're almost there, actually, right now.
Okay, so did you do any other nationals in '89?
I did Hangtown,
okay.
But I don't remember. I was probably past 20th. I was somewhere in there. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but I rode the 250, and I don't remember if I crashed or what happened, but I made it to the main. I mean, I made it in the top 40, but I think I was out of the top 20, so I didn't get any points.
And then did you switch to teams in 90? Switch
yes.
bikes? You went to ATK
Yeah,
or
I went
something?
90. I went to Yamaha.
Okay.
For Clark Jones, Nolene.
Okay.
Yep, 1990. I switched to that, and I rode 125, Supercross, and West Coast only, just a couple. And the reason I only raced a couple is because I broke my wrist. So I kind of got jacked up, and that's all because of Mickey Thompson. I was racing the Mickey Thompson. Number 73 was my number, and I was.
What was the story behind that number?
So I went that year, and when the year ended, what was it, 89? 89, they had the last 4 nationals were 500 nationals, which I wish we still did it like that again. It was Binghamton, Unadilla, Mount Morris, and Budds Creek.
Oh, I thought Washougal was one of the 500 ones. No,
it was just those. And so it was those 4. And I went back. ATK called because I was done for the year. And they're like, hey, you want to ride our bike? All right. So I rode an ATK 406, which was a 2-stroke. This thing was not ready for the Nationals. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I don't think that thing was ever ready for anything.
No, it wasn't. It was so old. That motor was from the 70s, right?
Oh,
it was so old. But and on that note, give Greg Zitterkoff credit because he was literally the pioneer. I think I took, me and Ty Davis and a couple of guys, we took that from him later. But Greg was the pioneer. And he was riding the 4-stroke that year in the Nationals. You could hear him all the way around the whole track, the only 4-stroke. But I happened to get one good weekend, and it was Budds Creek. And I got a 9th in one moto and like a 13th in a moto. And I got 73 AMA number just from that one weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was awesome. Unadilla was a wreck. Mount Morris was a wreck. Binghamton was a wreck. But
so that thing was just trash.
It was not meant for that. Yeah, it wasn't right.
Why could they not make it better? Like as a American, I wish they could have just come up with a bike that was kind of competitive, close.
Well, I don't think it was meant for that. And then they just said, "Hey, let's give it a shot." Right? I didn't even get any time to test. Literally, we signed the contract, and I was on the road.
Oh boy!
And I went with the mechanic, Joe Skid, and we drove all the way across country with Larry Brooks of all people. Larry Brooks and his mechanic Axel, which we called him Alex. And Alex ended up becoming a helmet painter later, Axel Fast Graphics.
Oh, I know that. Yeah. Okay.
So he was my guy when I was racing. He did all my helmets. And so anyways, he was the mechanic for Larry. Larry was on the 125 full pro circuit bike, but his own privateer Honda thing. And then we were in the ATKs. We had the 4-stroke and the 605 thing or whatever I had, 406. But it was a dude that was so gnarly. So that's how that number came about, 73. And then I brought that into the Clark Jones deal. So the cool thing about the 1990 was I was CMC number 1, 125 and 250. So I earned that number, which was cool. So that says 89, I won a bunch of races, right? And then in 90, I had the Yamaha. And I was doing the Supercross, just a couple West Coasts, and then I did the Mickey Thompson's, which was our biggest deal because Mickey Thompson's at that era was huge. Jim Hawley was winning.
Did you run the sticker flapping off your goggle?
So yeah, so we had to have that.
It was a
streamer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So it was so crazy. So
what was that, fast qualifier or what?
Fastest qualifier goes to the back, and you get paid for every guy you passed, right, and points. So I made some good money. San Diego did super good. Anaheim, San Diego did super good. And LA, this was so gnarly. LA, I was running second to Larry and Brooks. And my dad and I found that putting a flywheel weight on our 250 YZ made it just so much better. So we ran a flywheel weight. Well, Clark Jones didn't know we put the flywheel weight on, and he wasn't happy about that. And the flywheel weight fell off during the moto. Whoops. In the main while in second, and he was not happy. So the qualifier on LA was so rad because Jeremy and I battled, and I have this on video. It's like super cool, and he beat me, just not much. He barely beat me, but he beat me. I came from like 5th or 6th and caught him and was right on him, and then he ended up winning, but it was a cool battle. So the main event, I'm running second, beating him and everybody else, which was cool. There was a lot of fast guys then. And the flywheel fell off right at the bottom of the peristyle before you go back up and jump out of it. Boom, bike just stopped.
Locked it up.
We roll up to the pits afterwards, and Clark looks at it and goes, "Where did this come from?" And he was so mad, and he had a right to be mad, and he just winged it through the parking lot, and it just gone. I'm like, oh no, we're in so much trouble. So that took a while to get him, to
calm down,
settle down. But it was a cool year because we went from LA to Anaheim, and Anaheim, I was fastest qualifier again, started in the back, came all the way through.
They had an ultracross at Anaheim?
Anaheim,
I didn't know that.
And Jeremy was leading, and I was in like way back, and I caught him, and we're battling. I passed him on the last lap and took the victory. So it was so cool. So then the main event, it's Mickey Diamond and I in the main, in the back. Mickey's on a Cowie. Last row, I'm like, this is going to be hard, dude. It's starting way back there. I mean, we're literally around the corner. They're over here, and we're back here. We take off, and I catch everybody on the second lap. I'm already in second. Ryan Carlisle's leading. Jeremy's in third. I'm in second. Come off the finish line. You just launch into nothing. I landed, and I don't know what happened, but I must have landed on something like a rock or a boulder. It stopped the bike, pitched me over the bars, broke and dislocated this wrist. That just jacked up everything. So that I always tell people, that put me a year behind everybody. Everybody was way ahead of me. Like Jeremy and everybody just kept proceeding, and I was just falling behind. So I had a rough year. Golden States and everything that year, I had to wear a brace. Innovation Sports made me a brace, but it was so hard to ride with a broken navicular, and it just never healed.
Was your navicular?
Yeah, never healed. It was just horrible.
I've got I've got one on each.
Yeah, we all have our scars, So that was that year.
That's a bummer.
It was crazy.
So the flywheel was enough to not get you re-signed for 91.
Yeah, so we decided we're going to go a different direction after that. I love Clark, and he's still good friends. We're still good friends. And
is he still around?
Yeah, he works. He does suspension for some teams. Like he'll do suspension for other teams, and he's up in the high desert.
Okay.
Super good. Him and Lois, they're the best. And the girls are all grown up. They had young girls when I was racing. They were little. Now they're all married with kids. I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah. But yeah, Suzuki, Pat Alexander called up and said, hey, I want to get you some bikes. And we're like, okay. Yeah. So in 91, we got Suzukis. And I never rode Suzukis, It's like, well, when I was little, I did have a couple Suzukis, but I never really was a Suzuki guy.
They were good around this winter.
That was a good time. That was when Guy Cooper, he was riding them too, and he did all the development. And I always remember because it was like 91, Pat gave me one of the Works pipes, and it worked so good. And Donnie Emler's like, hey, can I borrow that? And he goes, just for a day. And I go, yep. He copied it exactly and gave it back to me and made them, because I was an FMF guy too. So he copied that pipe, and it made the bike so much better. And he put his twist on it, I'm sure. Donnie knows what he's doing. So he probably put a little twist to it, but it worked so good. But yeah, back to Supercrosses, back to the, the Mickeys. And we did all that stuff again. I've kind of found my little niche. Do a couple West Coasts, and then do some, maybe do a national here or there and just see how you do. Do all the local big stuff, because back then, remember, Golden State, GFI, TransCal, those were huge.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, and it was, we talked about, you could make good money, and you as a pro now, that's cash, I believe, right?
Yeah, and you're making Suzuki bucks.
Yeah,
so that was kind of cool too. So 1990 was interesting because of that.
And I don't know about the 80s as a pro, but I know in the 90s there was a lot of like just money races, like you said, GFI, Golden State, TransCal. You could do Mammoth, go to the World Mini. Just from the West Coast, you could fill your calendar up with good money races. The random, just one-off events.
Well, here's a good one. So this year, what was so big is this. If I looked at my career, 1991 was the pivotal year. It changed the direction that I was going to go. Not only 91, I started doing magazine testing. So I started with Cycle World magazine, which led to Dirt Bike magazine, which just led to just meeting all these people and being able to do a lot of other great things. But 91 changed my whole career. And I always look back and go, wow, if that wouldn't have happened. They had the White Brothers Four-Stroke World Championships. Big deal. Big deal. I mean, Ricky was racing them back in the day. Ronnie was doing them. They were all riding this four-stroke national stuff. And I go, I'll do that. So I asked Pat, I go, is it okay to ride a Husky? Because you don't really have a bike. Can I ride a Husky 610 for the shop and go race this world championship race? The purse was like 20 grand. For then, that was like $1 million, right? And so first place got paid probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 grand. And then the 5 grand for second or whatever. One day to make 5 grand, that's a lot of money. So I went, and I was like, all right, I'm going to race this thing. Oh, my God, I show up. There's so many freaking top national guys there. And I'm going, oh, did I just do the right thing? This is not going to be good. And Ty Davis was really fast. And it ended up, Ty won. I got second on this big old Husky 610. I mean, just to pull the clutch in, you had to use your whole hand. Yeah. And it's funny, I have a picture, and it shows me, like, pulling it in with, like, one finger. And I got Larry Wosick gave me a hard time. He goes, Big Gun, there's no way you pulled that clutch in with one finger. And I'm all laughing. I go, no, I probably was just holding it, But, you just use it for leverage. But I ended up getting second. I think I got second in both motos. And it was the scariest day of my life, but it was a game changer. Because you can't start the bike. If you stall it, you ain't starting it again.
Yeah,
the pipe would burn your leg. so bad. I mean, I had blisters I probably have scars still on my leg from the Husky.
Is that right?
The pipe was right next to your leg, and it just burned your boot. It ruined 2 sets of boots that day. 2 sets.
Jeez.
It was crazy, but I had
Did you guys
so much
wrap
fun.
it with tape or anything?
We ended up building a guard, and then the aluminum guard that would allow the heat to dissipate. So that was the next year I got that dialed in. But holy mackerel. But that was the beginning of this 4-stroke thing. I was like, something's going to happen.
What was it just because you were a bigger guy? Why did that thing, you seemed to kind of excel on the bigger, heavy.
I'll tell you what was so weird, and these guys today won't understand because our racers that we deal with now, they don't understand, like, when you ride a 2-stroke and you got to just keep it wound out the whole time, 125 wide open. 4-stroke was my style was very smooth. The bike suited my smooth style, and I was just electric and just so smooth, and it was cool. I enjoyed riding those things, and it just kind of fit me. I was like, wow, I just loved it. 92, when I got a 92 and I rode a Husky again, it was the best time of my life. Like, I rode the 4-stroke most of the time and never rode my 2-stroke because I had so much fun. I was like, oh my gosh. And on that, since I just cheated you, 92, I stayed with Suzuki. So I went back, and I think that was the year you got on a Suzuki.
Well, I was on a mini bike from 1990 on, but I got my first support with Pat.
Yeah.
Which it's funny when you talk about getting your first deal.
Yep.
He sent me a letter, snail mail back then, saying, we want to invite you to our factory support team. And I got, I think, 2 bikes and parts, but it was like my dad and I were just, that feeling is.
We just won the lottery.
Yeah. Well, it's like, that's a huge step in your career, right? So anyway, I remember that very well. And they gave us this factory sand cast cylinder, and it was like, we are so works. Look at us.
It's a factory bike.
Anyway,
that's so rad.
And Pat was great. Suzuki was a really good amateur program through that window. I don't know how it was pro racing. I know they had Gaddis, Budman. Like, they had some great guys.
Yep. Yeah, we had all those guys in the 91, 92s. Yeah. Yep. They were all in that era.
Okay, so 92, you kind of same program. You're doing a few local Supercrosses, nationals. I saw you rode a 250 at Hangtown.
Yep.
That year, 92.
Yep. Yeah, did I finish? What did I do?
I didn't.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I didn't write it down, but did you like the 250 better than the 125?
I was always better on the big bike. I don't know why I didn't ride a Supercross on a big bike. I would have done so much better. But I just was scared because it's like, those guys.
Yeah.
I don't want to, when you ride with those guys the first time, the whole time you're just looking back, waiting for them to pass you. Okay, do I move over for you, Ricky? Move over for you, Wardy and O'Mara?
Yeah.
So getting that was it was a little too much, and I just couldn't handle it. Even though I was racing pro, they were different pros. They were up here.
It's hard to get your mind around lining up with your heroes.
Yes.
I get it.
That was 92 was interesting. That was the year, I know you just mentioned, because you had Phil Lawrence on here, Factory Phil, and Phil was I always remember when Phil could tell you the story, but when he was little, he was like my buddy. Like, he would come over all the time and, can I get your autograph? Can I get your autograph? And I'm like, who is this little punk kid, But he was so cool. Little did I know one day I'm going to race with him, right? I thought he was just this little guy, but he was the nicest kid. That year in 92, he was teammates with me, and he went on and did really good. I struggled in the Supercrosses again, but we started testing together with Suzuki. So Suzuki put he and I out on the 93s before the 93s were around. We were doing all the development testing. That's who did all that. So he and I'd be out at Adelanto just putting laps and motos in, and it was fun. It was really fun. That was a good year. So people don't know that the bikes were being developed the years prior to the next year,
Yeah.
So that's where I started. This whole testing thing for me started right there, and then it led to more down the line here as we go on. But yeah, that was a fun year, 92. What else happened in 92? Oh, let me tell you what happened in 92. Can I?
Yeah.
Can I share this really quick? So since Suzuki gave me the green light, Husky gave me 2 full bikes, right? So we had do so much work. Race Tech stepped in and helped us. We had George Earl at Uptight Husqvarna help us build some motors, and I had my late buddy, he was the Cycle World editor, Ron Greiwe, who went on to help ATK start their business. But Ron, super brilliant. and he knew these 4-strokes. So he built us some flywheel weights and some other things to make the bike to where I'm telling you, I had so much fun riding this bike. I'd go ride it anywhere, and people are like, this guy's flying, right? It was so fast. So I was like, I should show up in a motocross race, just race these guys on this thing, you know? But that year, they said, Husky goes, hey, can you race a couple off-road races? Well, I just met my first wife at the time, and we were dating at this time, and she knew nothing about dirt bikes. And we go to Lucerne for a National Hare and Hound. Ty Davis, Rossler, Danny Hamill, Dave Ondas. I mean, there's guys like.
Had you ever done off-road stuff before?
Never in my life. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. You're a motocross guy with some tear-offs and no chest protector. It's like, oh yeah, throw me out there. So it was hard because you have to kickstart the bike at the start. And so I got it on the first kick, but the bomb was kind of sketch. And anyways, I felt bad because it was Ted Honeycutt. I was in this really tight little section, and we're running about 6th and 7th. And I stopped around this corner to dodge this thing, and he plowed into me, and he broke his hand. And I was like, oh, I felt so bad. It was just an accident. But I ended up like 6th or 7th in my first one. So I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Do a couple more of these. The other ones didn't go as good. But what did go good was in 92, we had that GNCC.
Yeah, you were telling me about this, and you got a photo we'll drop in. I had no idea they ever ran a GNCC out this far west, but you said Bowman put one in Arizona.
Yes, it was so cool because it's like a glorified 3-hour motocross race, kind of. And you had a pit.
Where was it, did you say?
Wickenburg, Arizona. And Ron Greiwe's son, Donnie Greiwe, was a good desert racer back in those days. And Donnie, he was riding Huskies too. And he goes, let's go. We'll go in my Dodge truck, and we'll just go there and race. I go, all right, cool. I got no parts, no nothing. I'm just set up for whatever I got. And it was crazy, Ping. I never thought I could do good, right? I'm like, I'm just going to go out there and just be in the back, right? Oh, no, I got a kind of a bad start. I worked by all those guys really quick, and it was Rodney Smith, Scott Summers, Mike Young. And I'm running right there in third with these guys. I'm like, this is pretty good. Then second lap, I come around. I'm like, something's not right. Rear tire's flat. I'm like, oh, I only have a couple more hours to ride on a flat tire. These guys are going to catch me. I did everything I could to keep my weight in the right spots. I wouldn't just burn the tire off. And I rode the whole race with a flat tire and finished it and got third.
Finished it with a flat? I thought you changed it.
Got third with a flat tire. Came in and the wheel was destroyed. Everything was destroyed, but I rode the whole thing. Is that crazy? That was luck. God's hand or luck or both, right? It was unbelievable. I'll never forget that. And I definitely have a picture for you on that. That was pretty cool. That was an epic day.
Yeah.
Epic day.
I'll bet. That's a feather in your cap for sure. Was this so the 4-stroke event you were doing was the what? The 4-stroke World Championship?
Yeah, I don't know what Bauman called it. There was 92, he had the championship too, and it was like 7, 8, or 9 rounds. And Kyle Lewis and I were on the Huskies. Zitterkoff was on, I think, a KTM, and there was a list of guys, and Ty and all these guys, but I forget who Phil Lawrence raced those two. He was on a Suzuki, like a DRZ 440 or something like that. I forget what it was on, but it was like a 6 or 7 or 8 round championship that he had. Okay. And that was my first full, and they included the World Championships with it. So that year was the start race was the World Championships at Paris. Full gate, 40 guys or 30 guys there, and I won both motos on that Husky going out. It was awesome. And it's funny, the second moto I had the whole shot, and in the back section, Ty is normally super clean with me. It was the dirtiest move. He hit me straight on, knocked me off the track. My boot was ripped open, and I'm like, oh, that's how it's going to be. Okay. So I just caught back up to him, and I just kind of went around him and passed him just without even nothing and never even said anything. I just go, okay, that's how it's going to be. I'll remember that for later. Yeah. But he was such a cool guy. I'm not that kind of guy that's going to go get him, But I passed him and won both motos, and that was right there, the seal in the cap to go, this is what I love to do. This is so much fun. Then we went and raced the rest of that series, and I don't know what's wrong with my life and my career. Had always a lot of challenges, but it always seemed to never be easy. I don't know why. But maybe that's just life, or maybe my Christianity or whatever it was. God's like, hey, nothing's going to be easy for you. But maybe whatever it was. The last round's Carlsbad, and all I got to do is finish. First moto, battling these guys, having a rough day for once. I don't know why, but I got like fourth or something the first moto. Second moto, right where I need to be. I think I was in second or third, and I think Kyle was in front of me. I think Kyle was the only one in front of me. So Kyle was, I think, leading. I think I was in second. The chain fell off. Back, when you go up the big freeway and you'd come down and then you do that other short shoot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right at the bottom of the freeway. How do you get the bike from there back? I pushed it up the hill.
Down Devil's Drop, all that.
Jumped on it, rode it down, pushed it all the way back around, and dropped down the finish line jump. And as I came around the corner, dude, it was 100 and something degrees outside. Some guy ran over, my friend, Buck, runs over. The sprinklers, I remember a sprinkler blowing on the track, and I'm like 10 minutes, 20 minutes late. Like they were holding the race up for me, right? And I'm pushing. He grabs the bike, and he just pushes it across the finish line. I'm all, why do I have to finish these races like this? Like, that's not fair. But I won the championship.
By finishing.
Yeah, just finished. All I had to do is get across that finish line. So, crazy, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the track. You couldn't cut through because it was all trees down at that bottom section.
Yeah, and there's the fence that went all the way up and around. And so I had to push. I might have had a little help getting it up that hill by the flagger, but I don't remember. But I had to push it the rest of the way. I couldn't cut through. Is that crazy?
That's not great.
Yeah, so that's gnarly.
Do you know what I was thinking? Because I was trying to remember where that Sound of Thunder series was. I think that was an East Coast series.
The Sound of Thunder it came right after this. Like, it literally was the next year, I think, called the Sound of Thunder.
But it was only East Coast, if I remember right. Because we had that West Coast series was different.
Well, we did have Sound of Thunder, but it was, I think, started in 93 as Sound of Thunder.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's where it kind of came from. I think it started in 93.
Okay. I was trying to figure out where that's fit into all this.
Mm-hmm.
And you were still on the Husqvarna at that point.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get through 93.
Okay.
And then we'll take a little break here. But still Suzuki in 93?
So 93 was a complete change to ride red.
Okay.
So I was, they called, and I started at the end of 92 testing for HRA. And they said, hey, next year, maybe if you want to come on board, you can ride red. And I was like, that would be a dream, right? And I'd run under Bruce Ogilvy's stable. And so I was like, oh, this could be kind of cool.
And
so
they wanted you testing the 4-stroke stuff?
No, testing all the 2-strokes.
Okay.
So it'd be testing the 125s and 250s. And anyways, so we would be testing the next year's bike. And that was when we got to the 19-inch rear wheel and all that stuff was all from that in 93. But Honda said, look, you just won this championship. We want to put that number 1 on our Honda. How do we do that? Well, Eric Krippa says, I'll build a works bike. So Eric Krippa takes an XR250 chassis.
And he was, just to let folks who are listening, Eric Krippa was a long-time Honda R&D guy, testing guy.
Old mechanic, factory mechanic.
Yeah, he had been at Honda, since?
Way in the 80s.
Way back. Made the best sandwiches in the business.
Yep.
And he recently passed away. So just a little shout out to Eric Krippa.
Yep, we're sorry about that. We're missing our buddy. We had, he was actually Chuck Sun's mechanic. He was actually Danny Magoo Chandler's
did he
mechanic.
work for Chandler?
Yeah. You have to ask Bailey about that because he can tell you a pretty funny story about Magoo and
well, I just wanted to give a little background on Krippa.
Yeah, Krippa was amazing, and his sandwiches were, they were way better than Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, it was like a deli sandwich.
Yeah, they were healthy.
He'd come out, who wants a sandwich? It was like, he took a lot of pride in it.
So
anyway.
He did the same thing with the motorcycle. So he took this motorcycle from the ground and built this full works bike that ended up, we started with a 650cc engine or something in it. And I can tell you it had 3 speeds. And it was. Oh,
really? 3 speeds?
Yeah, 3 gears. Too much. Way too much power. There's no way. It was ripping the countershaft sprocket in pieces. Like, it would shed the teeth off.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad it was. So we started out, we tested it for a couple times up at LA County. We got it to where we thought it was good, but we never took it somewhere like a Glen Helen or a Carlsbad. And so it had some issues. But the bike was so fast and the class was so deep in talent that it was rough. And for me, it was an emotional year because I wanted to win. I had number 1. I wanted to win. I wanted to beat all those guys. And so we would start really good. We'd be leading, and then the bike would break. Then I would start, and the bike would break. and I'd start, the bike would break. And this happened multiple races. So we were getting no points, and Eric's freaking out. He's so mad because he's trying everything, you know, and we had heating issues. So he was going to find these special oil coolers. He's finding special oil. He's doing everything he can to make this thing work. Well, the bike was, for what it was unbelievable. It handled so good. It was big. It was kind of heavy, but it handled really good. And once we did get it figured out, unbelievable. Glen Helen National in 93 was awesome. I know Jeremy, I think, won. I think Henry might have won a class. It was great racing. The track had some huge jumps.
The 4-stroke national?
Yeah, we were at the National. Our races, Sound of Thunder, was at the national races.
That was the year we did a one moto format, because that was my first ever national.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
It was gnarly, right? Long motos.
Bowman was involved in that.
Yes.
He and DeCoster put that whole thing together.
Yeah. So, and then we had the Sound of Thunder, which I think at that time my father might have been the promoter, but I don't remember. I'd have to ask him, but I think he might have been. And so we had a full gate. We had 30 guys, I think is what we had, all different bikes, you know, different stuff. But we got out to the lead, and it was crazy. I probably had like a, 5-second, 6-second lead on the first, like half a lap. Just moving. That bike was so good. And I come up into the canyon, and you turn and you drop, and there was a gnarly triple step down. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Then you land, turn right, and then you jump back in off of that sky jump that we had. I was jumping that on the 4-stroke. Nobody else was, but I'm just, and that thing would just air. I land, and I just hear this chain. This is chain derailed, came off, and I'm like, no way. So I coast with the momentum all the way off the track, around the side where the jump would have been, over here somewhere, and almost to by Talladega. And there's Eric, and he's freaking. He's like, no. So he's got tools. He's trying to kick this and do that, and it's over with, you know. And I don't even remember if we even finished the second moto, unless we did win the second moto. I don't remember, but I know the only 2 races we won that year was Carlsbad and Hangtown. Gnarly Hangtown was that year, gnarly. But we won both motos at Hangtown on the bike, so it did finish a couple races. But the cool thing with Honda was they said, we're going to let you ride some 250 stuff, whatever you want. Here's a 250, here's a 125. Just go have fun. And I'm doing all the HRA testing. We're testing at Paris on the Supercross track. Remember when Paris had that Supercross? So we're testing there. Meanwhile, my wrist was still jacked. You know, it's still been bothering me.
You didn't get it fixed?
Never. Oh. So it's like I finally went in that year and got it fixed, but it hurt so bad. Every time we were testing, I was in massive pain. And we're doing doubles, triples, and all that, right? And they said, hey, you want to race a Supercross? And I'm like, I don't know. So they put me on the next year's production bike, but with the tag on it for 93.
Okay.
And so I had a 94 for 93. Bone stock. Suspension, stock. You know how it was day qualifiers and night qualifiers? So day qualifier, I won. Gone. I was like, whoa, dude, I'm riding pretty good. You know, this is awesome. It's going to be a good night. In the night qualifier, I did pretty good. I was somewhere up in the front, and I got me a good gate pick. When I took off on the gate, it's like those Pro Circuit Peak bikes and all that, they were so fast, and I tangled with someone off the gate. And so as it came around, there's like this rocker section. Someone wadded, and I just plowed them. Mm-hmm. I forget who it was, and hopefully it wasn't you. But they plowed, and I just was like, oh, I'm just going to finish this thing. So I don't know where I finished, but it was somewhere in the back. But it was fun to get out there and do that. I had a full box van, full awesome JT gear kit with the Excel helmet. Everything just looked factory. I was like, this is pretty cool. And I think the number was 273 or 173. It was something like that. Anyways, had a blast. But then Honda goes, all right, well, we're going to do some desert stuff. So I did a bunch of off-road desert racing with Johnny Campbell. He was just starting the desert thing, and they were bringing him up is the next thing. We had Chuck Miller, Dave Donatoni, and Johnny, myself, and it was awesome. We were riding for Bruce Ogilvy. They take me out, and since I had a little desert practice already from Husky, I went out and raced all these dual European scrambles and stuff, and I did really good. I ended up getting a top 10 number for the next year. I didn't race, but I had a top 10 number. But here's the cool thing of the story. They said, we're going to race Baja 500 and 1000. That's not in our world. We don't even know what that's like, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't know nothing about it. Don't worry, we'll show you. Well, when you're on a factory team, they know what's up.
Yeah.
So I went with Dan Ashraf into the 500, and I'm going to be on my team, and it's me, Dave Donatoni, and Chuck Miller, and Dan, Johnny, and somebody else on their team. And they're the A team, we're the B team. The B team beat the A team. It was awesome. I threw it away in the first, probably 20 miles. I made a mistake, went over the bars into these bushes, and I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? So get back on it, get to Dave Donatoni. He finishes his section. I get back on it. I wad again over the bars. I'm like, what is wrong with me? So I was in such shock. I mean, they said I was hauling because they said I made up a ton of time. I don't know how, but I come in and I come into the pit and I gassed it. And all of a sudden the bike just wanted to pitch me off. And I was like, what is wrong? I ruined the rear wheel. There was only 8 spokes holding the wheel together.
Oh, no.
So I pull up and they go, wheel, wheel, wheel. Put it up. They changed the wheel. Still, we got second overall, and they only beat us by a couple minutes. Kawasaki did.
Jeez.
It was awesome. So, and I ended up not getting to race the end of the year at the 1,000. I forgot what happened, but I think I got hurt or something.
Dude, that's sketchy. Were you not? Like I said, like you said, it's way out of our wheelhouse. Yeah. For me, I have no interest in going that fast on terrain I don't know.
Oh, it's so scary, Dave. But to do it and to put so that's where my career is so different than most people's. Most people race motocross and they do that. I looked at my career and I go, what a blessing my life has been. The people that God had placed in my life, all the people that helped me get to these places. It's not me. It's all those people, right?
Yeah.
And all these friendships that we have, right? It's just that part of it made it so awesome. But I would have never ever thought I'd be racing a GNCC or Baja 500 or any of these, or Super Motard, which I didn't even cover. I did that back in 1990s. I'm like, who would have thought?
Yeah.
It was so wide, but I didn't win a Supercross championship or an outdoor championship, but I had a fun time, you know?
Well, it was very eclectic. That's what's kind of neat about your story. Yeah. So let's talk about kind of when you and I probably met. I mean, I might have known you prior to that.
It was this year. Yeah, we knew each other, but it was this year is when we got to know each other even better.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know how I got. It's very vague to me, how I got to Costa Rica.
I know how.
You do?
Totally do. Yeah, I totally do. So we have this Supercross coming up in Costa Rica. And for all these people who think of Supercross, they think of how cool it is today. This is not Costa Rica Supercross. So this Supercross is in a bull ring, and it's super small, and it's rusty, and I don't know how it even holds the people that it holds, but it does. But it packs the house, right?
Oh, yeah.
These people are fanatics. Well, they called, and they said, we need some riders, And I remember – I'm all, oh, dude, I know some guys. And I called Chris Young. I called you. And either I did or I had somebody call you. It was one or the other, but I think I might have reached out to you even through Pat or somebody at Suzuki. But I'm the one that got you dialed in to go down there because I was all, oh, he would rip it on the 125, So I was going to ride the 250 on the Honda. Literally, I took my practice bike Honda. It was just beat. It was just a beater 250, and I took it down there. I remember we got down there too, and my front fork, what was it? We had to fix it. The thing was broken. The dampening rod. It unstripped itself off of the. Remember they were screwed onto the cap. Yeah. It came off, so it's doing this, and so my forks are just all over. So we had to rig it to get it fixed, just so I could race. But
did we send our bikes down there?
Yes, we brought them on the airplane.
Gosh, I don't remember any of
that.
that.
We took them literally through the LA airport, and they put them on. Then when we got done, I remember because you were laughing. You're like, dude, there's no way our bikes just came out of the elevator in baggage. And I'm all, they do. And they brought our bikes through baggage at LAX, and we just rolled them outside.
Can't happen today, right?
No, there's no way.
Yeah.
You would never. It'd have to be crated and go through freight.
Yeah.
Because, we rolled our bikes.
Way looser program.
But yeah.
Well, this bull arena, like you said, the berms would go up on the walls. Yep. You're I don't know, 10 feet from the crowd.
Yep.
Like if you whiskeyed off the berm, you're killing people.
Yeah, they're right there.
I think at one point they were throwing stuff at people because they got mad. I remember them getting mad and they're throwing drinks on riders and stuff. And we're in this little, I don't know if it was where the bullfighters waited and hung out, but that was our pit area, this weird little dugout thing. And I just remember myself, Kehoe, you, Terry
Yeah,
Tinney,
Terry Tinney
and
was there.
Billy Whitley.
Billy Whitley, yep.
And then Pedro
Chris Young
Gonzalez,
and
Chris
Pedro.
Young, yep. I don't remember much of the race. I don't remember how I did, but it was like the first time I'd been out of the country racing, and I was just wide-eyed and following your guys' lead. And I remember that the gambling age down there is 18.
Yeah.
And so I ended up at the card table with Gaddis playing blackjack. I didn't know what I was doing. I won like $1,000.
Oh my gosh! See, I didn't know that. So you didn't even have to race. You already made your money.
I won like $1,000, and I go, dude, this is easy. Why don't people just gamble for a living? This is crazy.
That was your new carear.
Yeah, right. Well, then the first time I went to Vegas, I gave all that back. So
that 1,000 was gone.
1,000
plus
extra.
10,000 extra.
Anyway, what a fun trip. And I remember a story. I always wondered why they called Eric Kehoe Hog. And he told me the story. Oh, no, it's because Axo printed a pair of pants. Instead of Kehoe with an E, it was a G. It said Keyhog. So everybody started calling me Hog. Anyway, I remember that story.
And I forgot he was there too.
Yeah. Oh,
I
Kehoe.
totally forgot EK was there. I told him, and I'm telling you the same thing. I'm going to get you a video so you can remember it.
Oh, dude, I would love to see it. I have no photos. I have nothing from it. And I can't find any of that,
I'll get you a video of it. So a little DVD. They still make DVDs?
I don't have a DVD player anymore, so I'd have to go buy one of those.
Yeah, that was the best time ever.
That was such a cool trip. Anyway, lots of fun. All right, we're going to pick it back up, but I want to take a quick break. This is our Troy Designs timeout. Stick around. We're going to be right back to finish up here with Mike Young.
There's a new product on the market that's going to help you with your riding and racing, and it's Elevate Action Sports. If you've not yet gone and checked it out at elevateactionsports.com, it's a collective of riding coaches, the likes of which has never been put together. Grant Langston, Ryan Hughes, Jeff Emick, Johnny Campbell, and myself, David Pingree, bringing all of our years of experience in professional racing to one place with professionally produced videos and all kinds of supporting staff to help you with your mental side of racing, your physical side, your bike setup, your bike maintenance. We cover it all. Get to Elevate Action Sports right now and join the community.
Dunlop. There is a reason every AMA championship in the past decade was won on Dunlop tires. They are the best. Choose the best performing tire and a brand that has never wavered in their support of our sport. Choose Dunlop. Pro Circuit. Pro Circuit products are designed with one goal in mind: winning. Through passion and hard work, Pro Circuit has operated the most successful 250 team in the history of the sport. They use that same formula when developing exhaust, engine, and suspension parts for every brand. When only the highest level of performance is acceptable, trust Pro Circuit.
Since 2009, Seat Concepts has been dedicated to making the best aftermarket seats. More comfort, more grip, more riding. For 10 years, we've continued to raise the bar. Innovation and American craftsmanship make Seat Concepts the world-leading manufacturer of power sports seats.
Something from nothing. That's what Nihilo Concepts is about. It starts with a spark, an idea, a concept, which leads to a design, and finishes with engineered excellence with the highest quality products created with durability in mind. All our products are made in the USA at our state-of-the-art facility in Stuart, Florida. Whether you are a weekend warrior, ride for fun, or at the highest level of competition, Nihilo Concepts offers innovative titanium, aluminum, and carbon fiber parts for your dirt bike. We offer a wide variety of products that you can customize to your liking. Browse our site for foot pegs, brake tips, engine components, specialty tools, frame grip tape, lever grips, carbon fiber components, motor stands, our secondary on-switch, plus much more. Head to NihiloConcepts.com and see for yourself why factory teams like Red Bull KTM, Rockstar Husqvarna, Troy Lee Designs Gas, Orange Brigade, Club MX, KLM Gas, and some of the fastest riders in the world choose Nihilo Concepts.
Specialized Bicycles. Specialized leads the way in the world of bicycling. Whether it's cross-country racing, downhill, e-bikes, enduro, road, gravel, dual slalom, dirt jumping, or all mountain bikes that do it all, Specialized has the perfect ride for you. The brand is synonymous with engineering excellence and innovation that steers the industry. Visit your local Specialized dealer for a test ride and see just how good Specialized products are.
I try to keep on keeping on.
With a rich history in motocross, ProX has been dedicated to supplying quality components since 1975. Whether you're rebuilding an engine or just need a new chain, ProX Racing Parts aims to bridge the gap between OE quality and affordability. ProX has over 9,000 part numbers and over 60 different product types that are manufactured by highly reputable or even OEM suppliers and are offered at affordable prices to help keep riders on the bike instead of in the garage. Visit ProX.com to search parts for your bike or check them out at your favorite online or local dealer.
A lot of us have been talking about the Stasic generation of riders, and you forget how quickly things can change in a sport that is as young as motocross. That's 6-7 years that these bikes have been around training riders. So we have a Stasic generation out on the racetrack. A lot of those riders surely were raised on Stasics, and the skills they show are next level. All the things that coaches have been teaching riders on larger motorcycles for decades, they're doing it younger than ever, and it's hard to believe the Stasic generation is already here.
All right, everybody, welcome back. That was your Troy Lee Designs Time Out. We appreciate those guys for being a longtime supporter of the show since the very beginning. If you guys haven't been over to TroyLeeDesigns.com, all kinds of awesome gear out. You've seen the race team, the Gas race team wearing their stuff. Justin Barsha, obviously, and mountain bike gear. The paint department is open. If you're into mountain biking, all their stuff is great. So check out Troy Lee Designs. We love being a part of that family. And also want to give a mention to one of our partners, Ketone IQ. This stuff is really a cool fuel. It is just a very bioavailable fuel for your body. It'll pull ketones just very quickly, especially for kind of mental focus and things like that. But if you can't ride before or eat before you go riding, like I get kind of nauseous if I eat a big meal. I can have a banana or something, but this is a way to just make sure you're fueled up and you've got something in your system for your body to draw. And I use it actually just about every day because it helps with my mental focus. I find just if I've got to write something or just, no matter what I'm doing, staring at the computer, working on something, this helps me kind of stay locked in. And I've given it to my girls for soccer. I recommend this stuff to anyone that'll listen to me. The Reeds use this. Davey Millsaps, every guy he trains, he has on this. So very popular. Mike, you even said, you're getting a bunch of stuff about the Tour de France, all those guys running it, and it's very, very big in cycling and triathlons.
Yeah, you see it on every commercial. When I was watching the tour last week, and Lance Armstrong on his We Do podcast, and those guys are all using it. So if Lance Armstrong's using it, it's probably pretty good. Yeah,
it's probably pretty good. You can go to our Whiskey Throttle Media Instagram account. We have a link there to get you 30% off if you want to try it. But great product. We're stoked to have those guys partnered up with us. All right, let's jump back into your story here. So we kind of left off at 93. Take me into 94 and 95. And I don't see any AMA results from you those years. So is this where you sort of went all in on the four-stroke stuff?
Yeah, things
or
were
went
kinda,
to GPs.
Yeah, things were kind of transferring at this time. I got a call from ATK, and they were building the bikes up in. They bought a new company, bought ATK, and they moved it to Centerville, Utah, and they brought Ron Greiwe, my buddy from Cycle World, because he was super brilliant. He used to help with Husqvarna with design and engineering. Brought him and a few other engineers up there, and Frank White and his father owned it, and really nice people, good people. And they were literally making the motorcycles up there. And the first version of it, they brought to me and they said, hey, would you be interested in signing a contract and coming on with us and being kind of like a spokesmodel for the thing and riding it for the Four-Stroke Nationals? And I'd be willing to look at it. So,
and how did you leave things with Honda at the end of that year? I wanted to just touch on real quick too. I'll maybe step back for a second. That Honda you were riding, which broke a lot but was so amazing, was a 250 frame, XR250 frame, CR250 swing arm and front end, with a 650?
28.
628.
It started as a 650 and
Okay.
we moved it down. Yep.
So that was kind of it was a very Frankenstein, but kind of works bike.
Yep.
And did they continue with that development?
No, and I would really I wish I would have kept that motorcycle. I don't know where it went. I don't know what bin it ended up in, but I'm sure it got chopped up somewhere. And yeah, it's such a shame, dude. It was unbelievable. It had the 94 front and rear end off of the CR250 on it in 93, so it was like cool. It had the better front forks. They're thicker. I think we had in 94, I think they had Cagiva front. No, the 125s always had Cagiva. 250 had Showa. Okay. So it had the newest Showa, and they worked so good too. It was a great bike.
Well, the 94 CR was probably the gold standard for 94, 95, right? 96 for 252 strokes. Period.
They're winning everything.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Continue. I just wanted to touch on
no. So ATK called and said, hey, we'd really love you got tons of skill and experience from all your testing and all your years of racing. We'd love to bring that in and help us build a better bike. So I got the bike, and it was, the motor's really old. This motor's from back in the day. It's a Rotax motor, right? Old. So they put good components on it. It had good WP stuff. It had really nice Talon wheels. It had pro taper bars. It was a good bike overall. It was nicely put together. A little big, a little bulky, and a little heavy, but we ended up hiring my friend Jim Lewis, who used to be with KTM back when Brock Glover helped develop the 250 two-stroke. Most people don't know that Brock Glover rode a KTM. And I even had to tell KTM employees, I go, you didn't know Brock Glover used to be? Yeah, Brock designed the original KTM. Brock was awesome and still is. And so
he did a season of GPs on that, right?
Oh, yeah. He was awesome on that bike. That bike wasn't as fast as it should have been. So he did really good. He rode very well. So we took his old engineer, Jim Lewis. He was at White Brothers at the time, and they contracted him and said, hey, can you help us? Because I got the bike, and literally within the first 5 minutes, I could bend the shock, and it would be ruined. So the rear shock would bend, and it was done because it only had a one-side shock, had no linkage. So the thing was horrible. The whole bike was twisting and moving. And so it took a while. As you know, the process takes a while. So we would be doing ongoing testing as the season was going. And I'm on that thing just getting worked. Here I was a champion, and now I'm getting worked. I went from 1 to number 5 to probably 100. I was just horrible. And I was embarrassed. I was like, I shouldn't even be out here. This is horrible. And the bike was it just took a long time. But we finally got it to where it was better. We helped them fix the swing arm to where it wasn't doing this, got the suspension working, fixed their foot pegs. The foot pegs would snap right off. So we got the foot pegs all huge and supported. The bike was fun after a while. I got it to where I had fun. I was at Glen Helen every Thursday. I'd be out there just mowing it down and just ripping. And I remember Dubach and I were out there battling a few times. He's on a two-stroke, and he's just laughing at me going, how do you ride this big old turd, And
one of those years, I want to say it was Keith Johnson, raced it at a couple nationals, and it blew up every time. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was the Cannondale.
Oh, that was the Cannondale.
Yes, you're right. Which I was part of that too. We can get to that. But so 94 was kind of just a weird year. The local Yamaha Cucamonga, where I live, they gave me a couple bikes, 125 and 250, and I went out and raced GFI and the local stuff just for fun and make some extra money, And I did that. And
was ATK paying you a decent, like a salary?
Yeah,
then?
I was getting paid, so it was kind of nice. And they didn't have a two-stroke, but they ended up coming out with the two-stroke and had me take it out to Glen Helen. I got tons of video footage on it, and the bike was good. It was actually really good. It had an old motor. It was a new motor for Rotax, but it was still old technology. The power valve was just kind of old school, and it had power and it ran good. Just the ergonomics of the bike just wasn't right, and they couldn't get it good. And it was a full works bike. It had a full billet aluminum gas tank with radiator shrouds built onto it.
Oh, wow.
And I have pictures of it somewhere. I'll have to find them for you. But I would go out and just beat that thing to a pulp and then tell them what it would do, and then they would send me parts. And there was a big double at Glen Helen. You come around by the track used to go the opposite direction. Okay. So it was going this way instead of the way it goes now. So it was going this way. So you come by the announcing tower and you do this like S section, right? And then there would be like some jumps in there. They had a huge double for the longest time. And I was just hucking it on that 250 and I'd land and it would bottom out and it just caved the pipe in. So I caved in probably 10 pipes over there.
Jeez.
They're like, what are you doing? And I'm all, I don't know. It just keeps caving the pipe in.
Was the tire hitting the head?
Yeah. And the pipe just was it would go too far down. So it needed to be tucked in. But anyways, 94 was interesting because I just had a time where I was just trying to figure out what the next step of my life was going to be. I was 23, still young. So I was like, I don't know. And it was interesting. This is the cool thing. So that year, Dirt Bike Magazine had this issue come out. It was about midway through the year. And they were talking about Joel Smets, that he just won this championship on this Vertimati. And it was a 2-page spread. And a lot of people that saw dirt bike back then will remember it was awesome. That this bike, it was yellow with a green frame. It was a works bike built from the ground up. And Smets took that thing over there in the 500 GPs and won world championship, right? So I'm just looking at that thing just as a 4-stroke enthusiast, and I'm just drooling going, wow, hydraulic clutch, 3-speed gearbox, cartridge gearbox where they can just pull the whole thing out, change the gearing, put it back in, all 3 gears up, and then all 3 gears down to neutral, hydraulic clutch, like I said. It was all titanium fasteners. The frame was built in like three pieces. I'm just looking at it going, look at the swing arm. It's a work of art, right? It's all billet. So nobody's thinking, I'm not going to ever ride the bike, but I'm like, I want one, and I want to ride one day. It'd be cool to get one. So as the year progresses, all of a sudden I get a phone call from Ron Lawson, the dirt bike editor at the magazine. And he goes, hey, our counterpart over there in Italy called, and Stefano is his name, and Padovani, and he called and he's like, hey, they're looking for a rider. You know anybody? And he goes, I know a 4-stroke world champion over here. And he's like, have him call us. And so I'll call him right now, Ron. Really? Vertimati for reals? I go, I was drooling over this bike like 4 or 5 months ago. He goes, yeah, they called. And I go, okay. So I called and they said, yeah, come on over. So it was winter. And I go, all right, cool. So they set it up. I go over there and
where are they at in Italy?
They are in northern, like Milano.
Okay.
They're in Triuggio, which is near Canonica, which is right by Monza. So right by Monza, okay. You can hear Monza from where they are. So when they're racing Formula One. So I'm like, all right, this will be cool. So I go over there and I go to tracks I've never been to, GP tracks that David Bailey's. Oh my gosh, we raced there. And I'm like, I didn't even know. So I'm riding and I'm thinking, am I doing okay? Am I not doing good? I mean, I don't know. The bike
was it the same bike?
Same bike that he had in the magazine.
How was it?
It was pretty awesome. It was so weird because I'm in Europe. It's freezing cold. I'm trying to debut myself and trying to try out for a job. I've never done that in motocross, right? I never tried out for a job. Yeah. You get a contract and you just go. I'm trying out for a job. So I'm like, am I doing good enough? So for one, the bike kick starts on the left side, forward.
Oh, okay.
How weird's that, right? So you better not stall because, especially when you have your knee braces on, you can't bend your leg that far, right? So I'm trying to get back here to kick it. I got long legs, so I'm trying to kick it over, but it starts the first kick every time. The thing was unbelievable. Okay. I got on it.
Did you have I'm trying to process that. Did you get off the bike and kick it with your right, or you were doing it with your left?
No, I would kick it with the left. I would most of the time I would start it on the stand so I could stand up on it, and then I'd kick down so it'd be easy. And they're like, don't give it any throttle, don't do anything. It had automatic decompression. If you do this, it'll flood it. I'm like, okay. So I just got it right up there and just boom, and it just fired right up, and the thing purred. Huh. It purred, and it was crazy. It had 70 plus horsepower back then, okay? 3 speeds. The one I had was 550 cc's. It was gnarly, and you'd launch
okay,
it.
The 3 up, 3 down seems super. I feel like if you ever missed, am I in second or first and went down, now you're in neutral. That seems really odd to me.
So that was my MR50 that I started on. 3 up, okay. 3 down. So it was really weird. I go, this is odd. So what I found on the bike was first gear I start, I'd shift to second. I'd only use second and third.
Okay, you
never,
never went down
downshift
first
to
again,
first. So thank God I didn't have any weird, miss shifts or anything like that. There was a race, which I'll get to, that I did get stuck in gear. But in a nutshell, it was unbelievable. So I go, this bike is so sweet. It handled really good. And they were messing around with suspension back then. They were going from different shocks. They had like a sack shock. They had Öhlins. They had a WP. And I tried them all, and the Öhlins was really cool. I liked it because it just seemed like it just tracked way better. So they're like, okay, cool. So I go home. I don't know what they're thinking.
Oh, you never got an answer.
I didn't know. They just go, okay, thank you, and I'm like, all right, cool. I go home, and they call me back, and they send me these fax. Remember fax machines?
Yeah.
Send me a fax, and they said, these are your lap times versus so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so at the track. And I'm like, whoa. I was actually going pretty fast. And they had me go practice at this place called Asti, which Ryan Hughes was his home track.
Yeah.
And he loved it. I loved Asti too. Asti was like the bomb track. And all these guys, I was right up there with them, and they said, we'd be willing to offer you a contract. So one of the things that was different over there back in that day, in our era of racing, you didn't see this as much. You weren't always on a stopwatch. Not always. Just sometimes. Over there, people were stopwatching you, and you don't even know they're stopwatching you. And they're telling, hey, so-and-so, this guy's running fast laps, or this guy's slow. And so you knew you were always on a clock. So they basically said, yeah, we want to offer you something. And I said, all right, well, cool. What's the deal? And so they give me this really nice package. I mean, it was pretty nice. I was like, wow, this is paying pretty good. It's all cash. All cash. No checks, no
US
cash,
dollars?
all US dollars. And I'm like, okay. Then I got a gear deal, all cash. Got a boot deal, all cash. Oakley was just product and contingency, which was fine. I was cool with that because I was an Oakley guy anyways. I went from Oakley America to Oakley Europe, big deal. And it was cool. So it all worked out. And I was like, I think this will work. I go, well, I want more. I want the motorcycle when I'm done. And they're like, I don't know. We don't want nobody in America to have this bike. I mean, this is a works bike. We don't want everyone to have it. Well, that's the deal. I want the bike. Okay, we'll give you the bike. So I get the motorcycle, the contract with all the perks, and I'm like, all right, cool. But I was so scared because I'm like, where do I live? What do I do? How do I get around? It's so gnarly. We're not in our country, right? And so I go over there, and they fly me over so I can start doing some prep. And we did the Italian Nationals. I got waxed at a few of the Nationals because, one, it's raining all the time. Yeah. And I'm like not a mud rider. So what they do is they take me out with another Italian. His name's Franco Rossi, who was racing with me. He was GP number 10. He's pretty fast. And they go, you go ride with him. And it's pouring rain. I mean, the track is like this deep in water. And I'm like, this is a joke. You're soaked, right? So I get out there and running laps. And all of a sudden now I'm starting to pull away. And they're like, oh, he's figuring it out. So I did that a bunch of times and got the mud figured out. And literally we go out there and run a 45 plus 2, get out, get in the truck, yank the clothes off, put dry clothes on, put a towel around you, get warm so that you warm yourself right up and just throw your clothes away. And I would do that all the time with them. But it was freezing over there, so cold. And I remember it was really Arctic. So I have a picture that you're going to put up from Mantova. And it was so cold that day. I'll never forget. My hands were just like rocks. And trying to hold on to a 4-stroke that's got that much power, it was just gnarly. So anyway, so I go over there, start doing those Italian races. Talon's there. So is Bobby Moore. And I'm with them every weekend. And Jimmy Button. So Jimmy Button's
that was during his one.
I forgot. Jimmy is over there on 125, right?
So you were doing 500.
I'm on the 500.
Talon was doing 250, and Jimmy's on 125.
Yeah, and I will say...
Bob was 250 then as well?
Bob was 250. He was Chesterfield Yamaha for Rinaldi.
Did he win in 94? What was his...
I don't know who won the... 94, I think Stefan won. I think Stefan won the 94. He was on the JHK Kawasaki with Talon. Talon was right there. Like, Talon almost got it. Puzar was there. I mean, they had a roster.
Okay.
And they had the Suzuki guys there, DeWitt, and there was one other.
Albie.
No, it was before Albie was there.
Albie's on a Honda that year.
Yeah, he wasn't there yet.
In 94?
Yeah, in 94.
Really? Okay.
He might have been. No, he wasn't there yet. I bet he came right after that.
Okay.
95 maybe.
Okay.
But man, I'll tell you one thing. That was the best I've ever seen Talon Volan ride.
He was a missile over there.
Unbelievable. Had the best style. Was looking so good. I was blown away. So I would race with them every weekend.
How funny is that you guys start together on mini bikes?
Yeah.
And now here you are in Europe racing Grand Prix.
All the way on the other side of the world.
That's hilarious.
It was cool. We didn't get to hang out because they're in a different country every week. So the GPs start, and my first GP is Portugal, and we have to fly there. And the other half of the team drove they have these Mercedes like motorhomes, and they're box fans too.
Yeah.
And they would drive that to the race, and then the wife, Miss Vertimati, would cook for us pastas and all this. It was awesome. Great food. But anyways, do you imagine you're American, no one knows you, and you're going to your first GP, and it's like there's 60, 70, 80,000 people. I mean, the whole track, I have the video, the whole track, people. You can't see anything but the track. It's the craziest thing. And you're going around, and there's just horns blowing. And I get there, and I'm thinking, the track's going to be so rad, right? It looked like Carlsbad on a practice day. It had rain ruts, hard as a rock, marbles. And the worst part of it is you're riding on moose tires. There ain't no tube.
Oh, really?
So have you ridden on a moose before?
Yeah. I wouldn't use them on the front. I couldn't.
Oh, my God. It was like, whew. You would lose the front end. So it was something you had to get used to. I would let the mooses get worn out, and I would run them better when they were soft. When they were new, which I had to run at Portugal, I was like riding on a flat front. It was just all over. I ended up second moto. First moto, I think I got fifth, sixth.
That's not bad.
Sixth, I think sixth or something. And sixth, right around sixth or seventh. I was right in there. I mean, it was not far off. Second moto, I get like a good start, and like 4 guys crash on the first lap, and I was like in second. I was like, what am I doing here? Joel Smets, Mike Young, and the commentator, I'll never forget, he's all, that's 97 Mike Young. He's American. He's not doing too bad himself his first year of GP competition. And so, meanwhile, people don't understand how hard it is to, one, maneuver a bike like this around. But for 45 plus 2, twice, it was gnarly. So I ended up getting a little tired in second moto, and I faded back to fourth, and I got like 6th overall for my first GP. Not bad, right?
Oh.
And then the year went on, and it was interesting. I did 9 out of the 13 races, and then I tore my ACL. We got to Czech Republic was, I think, the 4th or 5th round, which they just did Czech Republic this weekend for the GPs.
Uh-huh.
That's the same place I raced. And I got 3rd overall. So all of a sudden, I'm coming around, I'm just little by little getting faster and faster. I got 3rd overall, and Shane King, Daryl King, they're like my buddies, and Trampus Parker was like my best friend. And so Trampus like, you got to get a little more aggressive. You're too soft. And so he kept driving me to get better, and he was battling for the championship. It was him, Smets, and Martins, and I was just in that next little bunch, but I was there. And we finally get to our home, and we get to Cingoli, Italy. And it's in the most beautiful place you've ever seen, Dave. It's unbelievable. And there's castles all over. There's a street that runs through the middle of it, and you jump over it. It's so crazy. And so I'm lined up, and I'm like, don't rain. This is perfect for me. It's like Carlsbad. I'm like, I'm in heaven. First moto, I get like 20th start. I'm like, this is not going to be good. I worked the whole way, passing to second place. The leader, I was so tired by the time I caught him. I mean, I passed everybody. By the time I got there, his seat fell off on the last lap. It was Gerald Delapine. And I see his seat fall off, and I'm like, I got to catch him, but I just got nothing left. And so he beats me by probably a bike link, maybe 2 at the most. And the Vertimati brothers are like going crazy. They're like, this is amazing. So second moto, I get a good start. I'm right up in there. And about the 2nd or 3rd lap, I think I was 3rd or 4th. All I had to do, I would have passed the guys in front of me. Trampus was the only one I wouldn't have caught. Trampus would have won. I probably could have got 2nd. And a guy runs across the track on that road that I just talked about. And I'm jumping across it, hits my front wheel.
Come on.
No joke. And I'm just like, front wheel, so what do? You stick your leg out? Stuck my leg out, pop. Tore my ACL right off the back. So 9 rounds in, I'm running 6th overall in the World Championships. I'm like, this is unbelievable, unheard of, making some really good money and having a blast, right? Different country every weekend, and I have to go home. I stayed, and I tried to ride the GP in France, and it was very marbly in practice.
What was the track?
It was the same one that they race the GPs at now.
St. D'Angeli?
St. D'Angeli, I think that's the one, yeah. So it was a lot different track then, though. Starts in the same place, but it used to use the hills different. And so, yeah, it's the same one that they go up the hill and they come flying back down in the tabletop finish. Same track. I just fell over in practice, like I lost the front end, and I dabbed my foot. And I was like, yeah, this is not happening. And then I went to their doctor, and I went to Germany and tried one more time. And in Germany, I just basically said, I can't do anymore. And I think there was 2 more rounds left, and I was like, I'm done. So I go home, and I'm just bummed because I'm like, this sucks. And the crazy story, when I got home, it was just weird. I went in my jacuzzi, and I pulled on my leg, and it popped. And I was like, oh, that was interesting. And I could walk normal. It felt totally fine. The next weekend, Ron Lawson calls me. He goes, hey, I heard you're home. I'm like, yeah. He goes, come race Carlsbad this weekend. I got a brand new Kawasaki that I want you to ride. And I'm like, okay. I didn't really want to, but I'm like, all right, I'll go race. And so I taped it up, and I put my knee brace on and just made sure that everything was nice and tight. But my meniscus must have been folded because it popped out, and all of a sudden I could straighten my leg, and I'm just like, it was just loose. So as long as I had my ACL guard on my CTIs, as long as that was on there, it would hold the knee in, and I was fine. But at least now I knew every time it did pop out, I'd just pull it back and pop it back before I felt it. But I went out and I had to race with Ryan Hughes that day at Carlsbad. I was like, really? I thought I was just coming to have a good time. He battled me on a Works Cowie 250. I'm on this production Kawasaki I've never ridden in my life. And anyways, we had a battle, and he ended up winning. But the GPs were such a blessing. It was so cool. I got to bring the bike home without the seat. They gave me the whole bike, but no seat.
Why?
Never to this day do I understand.
Maybe they didn't want you to ride it.
Something was up. It was the weirdest thing. I got my full race Works bike, and
you still have it?
Yeah, I actually I sold it to Greg Prim, and then Greg sold his whole collection to a place back east that has it, the Armory. There you go. And so they have it on display there, and that bike was just unbelievable. And what a season, what a year. It was cool.
Yeah, what was that you were nervous going over, but like what was it like living there and that culture and you know, you have to just eventually kind of blend into the Italian style of living, and the food's incredible. Italian food over there is pretty amazing.
Real deal.
Yeah.
Well, I was lucky. I got to bring my buddy from ATK. His name is Cord Pearson, lives in Utah still. And Cord came over just to hang out. He's like, I'll just be there, hang out. He ended up being my pit board guy and my helper, and he was a huge blessing to me. And anyways, he and I would hang out and go find cool restaurants and stuff. But we stayed in the Formula One hotel. It was called Hotel Fossati, and it had a landing pad on top of it. And this was back when John Alesi and Gerhard Berger were Ferrari, and they had their own suites, their penthouses there. And the guy was a full Ferrari like fanatic, like he's crazy, right? And so they would fly both of their helicopters, land them, and they would go up to their rooms, and they had this, like I said, it was crazy. So we got the best treatment ever. So the owner would take us to practice, and this was the year when they just started the shifting with the pedals, paddle shift. And they were like downshifting, and the cars would spin out because they'd shift too fast. And so it was just totally new. We were standing like from me to you from them going by at Monza. It was you can't do that. But we got to do that. We got to go in the pit stall, hang with them. They fire the car up. Dude, they were so unbelievable. They were V10s back then. So we did that, and that hotel was awesome. Then we had a sponsor that was a top-of-the-line restaurant. It was like going to like, I don't know, a big famous restaurant here, like a Ruth Chris, but way better, right?
Like Spago or something.
Yeah, like Spago. Yeah. So going there, and we had a sponsorship, so we would go there every day. And people don't understand the culture so different. They don't really eat breakfast. They kind of have coffee and some little Danish or whatever, and they're not open for lunch. So you got to wait till like 3 o'clock to eat. Oh, we'd be dying by then. You know, I'd run and cycle and mountain bike. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm starving. And we'd go there right when they'd open, and guy would make us fresh pasta every day. The culture is rad. And it's every country, when you race the GPs, like I have so much like respect for anybody that's ever done it and will do it. I would love to see more Americans go there. I think it makes them stronger and tougher. Over here, things are just like, here, have this. It's just too easy.
Yeah.
Over there, you got to put the work in, and you've got to deal with culture, language, different racetracks every weekend. I mean, I'm showing up at a track I've never been and seen in my life, and you were expected to qualify. Back when I was there was 80 guys that wanted to qualify. 80 guys. They can't even fill a field nowadays at some of the races over there. And I'm going, there was 80 guys. So when I got there, I'm like, we drove all the way here. We need to qualify. And so that was a scary thing. And you're not used to putting a hot lap in back then. We didn't do that.
No.
So, and then when you qualified, they paid you. You got money.
Oh, really?
Just to make it to the feature, you got paid. And then every moto, you got paid. And the trophies were amazing. The gifts were amazing. And after every moto, they celebrate it. So first, second, and third, after first moto, they'll stop and you go on the podium and they do this thing and you shoot the, champagne and then you go back and try and cool down. And the mandatory back then, they had to have showers. I didn't understand all this back then, but cool your body temp down. No one told me any of that. I'm sitting there dying and I'm going, I got to go do this again.
Yeah.
And they're all, Joel Smets and them are all in there showering up. So it's so different than what it was for us back in that day, but it's so different now. It's it's more professional.
Did you kind of change strategies with the 45 or 50-minute moto essentially? Like, that's one of the things they talk about coming over here is the intensity is so much higher because it's a shorter moto. It's a sprint. Mm-hmm. Where over there, it's like you can't really sprint for 50 minutes. You just can't. So you strategize.
Yeah, I was on the clock, like I said. Every single time I got on the bike, whether I wanted to or not, I didn't feel like riding that day, I was on the clock.
Yeah.
So what they would do is they would kind of keep you not at your red level, not up here in the red, but not down here either. They would kind of keep you in the yellow. And they're like, hey, pick it up a little bit, pick it up. And you got kind of used to running that pace the whole time. And then at the end, if you had anything you needed to give, you had a little reserve. Because otherwise, if you started out in the red, you'd throw it away in 2 or 3 laps and have nothing left, right? So you kind of, and in a long moto like that, you can see guys get tired and they start to fade and you're starting to make time on them. And it was nice to have all that. But man, when we would practice, I would ride for no joke. I would do my motos would be like 55, 60-minute motos. And it would literally almost run out of gas. Like I'd be almost out of gas. The tanks were pretty big. They had to have so much. And we had 2 petcocks. So it would overflow to the other side. But yeah, I would run 50-minute motos and just blast it out. It was pretty crazy. And it was really gnarly. People don't understand is when you ride that long, your hands get wet from sweat. And when you start getting wet, then you start getting blisters and stuff. So over there, they had these gloves that were aerated. So you could ride the whole time and never get a blister. And I got those from Trappist Parker, and I'm like, we've got to make these gloves. They were unbelievable. So they would allow air and it'd allow your hand to breathe and keep them dry. Pretty neat, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
So that was 94?
That was 94.
And did you
95.
95, okay. And so it seems like you were doing really well. Did they talk about bringing you back for 96?
Yeah, so 96 was interesting because I had opportunity to go back and ride for Factory Husky, which Husky had it was either Husaberg or Husky you wanted to ride. KTM was good. They had 360s, but there really wasn't a lot of other options unless it was Vertimati. And the brothers just kind of like, I don't know, they didn't offer me anything. So I was like, okay. Plus I wanted to heal my leg. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I looked at the Husky thing, but the problem with the Husky thing was I was kind of on my own. So I would have had to get they would give me all the bikes and the motors and all that stuff and the parts and the support, but I'd have to have my own rig to take and have a mechanic. And it was a lot. I would have had to run my own team.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to run my own team. I'd rather just be signed by a team and go that route. But so I was like, wow, what do I do? And then the phone rang. And I was like, okay. It was one, my dad, and he goes, hey, did you know we're going to have a full AMA national championship this coming year for 4-strokes? It's like a real legit like AMA national championship, like the full plaque and the whole deal. Yeah, really. I want to see this on paper. And so he sent me the contract, and AMA said, yeah, we're doing full. They said, this is the future. We're going to start incorporating this into the West Coast Nationals. We're going to do a full series. We're going to have our AMA techs and refs there. You've got to have AMA license. It's all legit. Like, you got to have a pro license. I'm like, well, I'll look at it. Then the phone rings again, and it's Chuck's son. And I'm like, what are you doing, Chuck? And he's all, hey, I work over here at Husaberg. And I'm like, Husaberg, what? And he goes, yeah, KTM just purchased Husaberg. They're bringing it over. They need some guys to show the bike off, and we want to race the AMA championship. We want to win. Okay. So then the negotiation started, and I was like, maybe I stay. I still hadn't decided. Still working on the Husky thing a little bit. And I was like, well, let's just see. So in a nutshell, they offered me something I couldn't refuse. I said, you know what? I can stay home, race local, and, race these local like races. And I can race 6 times a year or 7 times a year and make enough to where I don't have to race the rest of the year. This is great. I don't have to kill myself like the poor guys now. They're racing the whole year, right? Yeah. So they signed a contract with me and brought some bikes down literally weeks after that, and it just started clicking, and the races were coming quick. They came really fast, like the 96 season. It was upon us, and luckily my knee was good, everything was good. But then the first round was at Canyon in Arizona, and you raced there. You said you used to race there, right?
That was my home track.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Somewhere down in the back side, down there, before you jump back up in, somewhere down there, I stuck my leg out and jacked my knee again. And so I was coming into that. I think I was just unbelievable speed. I think I was by far the fastest guy, but riding with an injury. And I'm like, this is not going to be good. So I tried to get Robert Naughton, was a nurse at the time, and I said, hey, dude, I have this cortisone shot. Can you – because over in Europe, they have all that. If I tore my shoulder or something, they just give you a shot and you could ride the next moto. It was pretty amazing. So over here, we didn't have that, but I brought some back with me. Hey, can you stick this in here? And I couldn't do it myself. And he goes, dude, I'm not doing that. So he wouldn't. And I was like, I totally understand. So we didn't, and I had to ride hurt. And I think I ended up maybe second. Yeah, I think I got second. I think Lance Mail won, and I think I got second. Tried to give him as much of a run for his money as I could. But then the series got good, because then go to Glen Helen, and then I win, and then Hangtown, I win, and it's getting good. And Washougal, and I think we battled. I think he just beat me at Washougal, but we went back and forth the whole year. And there was a point where we were doing so good, but we were a few points ahead of him. And
was
I had
he
a cushion.
KTM?
He was on the KTM, so we were the same team kind of, but we're different trucks, right? He had Tom Moen, and I had my mechanic Russ Fletcher.
But same bike essentially? Was it that?
No, that KTM was totally different.
It was totally different. Okay.
Yeah, he had a big 640, and I was riding like a Husaberg 501. And then halfway through the season, Husaberg said, we want to put you on the 600 for like Mammoth and for Idaho. And I was like, oh, man, I like the 501. It's just so fun to ride. 600 is a big bike. And I said, all right, I'll just ride it if you want me to. So in Boise, they nickel-plated the frame. And I took it to Mammoth and did some testing on it. And in Mammoth, I rode my 501, and I'm leading the first moto. And all of a sudden, I hear this ting, 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 ting. And I'm like, what is that? I look down, and the spokes on the front wheel are breaking.
Oh.
So you imagine coming down the big downhill with the front wheel just doing this the whole time. So I have to back it down. Lance passes me, and I ended up nursing it. Billy Lyles, I think, was behind me in third, and Billy was no slouch. Billy Lyles wide open. And I ended up second overall, I think, that day. But it cost me because I was having these failures. And so all of a sudden now Lance is catching me points-wise. And I'm going, oh, boy. Go to Idaho. They nickel plate this 600 frame. I'm leading. I land off this double, and the whole bike turns in 2 pieces. Front end goes one way, back goes the other way. All of a sudden, the only thing holding it together was one of the radiator hoses. I'm like, holy mackerel. Lance goes by. He's like, what was that? And it just one thing after another. So we come down. We finally get to the end of the season, and we're in Colorado and Grand Junction. and track's horrible, as I've spoke to you about before. And I'm going, all I got to do is get 2 seconds and I can win this sucker and get the bonus and I'm good. Okay, I'm going to get 2 seconds. I didn't care about racing Lance or even trying. Just let him go. And so I let him go, and I just kind of bided my time. First moto, just got second, got roosted like crazy. It came back, was just peppered. And second moto, I go, just got to finish. And, you know, 4 strokes, we're not that reliable.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just going, please, just hold up. So we're doing, 35 plus 2s or something. And I get the 2 to go, and I come around, I get the white flag. And right as I get the white flag, there's a bunch of hay bales, and the bike just goes kapoop. And it stopped on the white flag of the second moto. My heart just sunk. So I pull over. I'm just kicking. There's no light in the fire. Something happened. I just leaned the bike over, and I just walked off into the desert. I was so mad because I thought that was what I was supposed to get. That was my day. I've worked since 1974 to get here, and that's my day. And God and I had to talk. And God just goes, hey, I'm humbling you, man. I'm just humbling you. It's okay. So I finished the race, and I have to hand the thing over to Lance, and it was just, you know, they go, here, give him the trophy, and I give him the trophy, and I'm just like, this hurts, dude. This hurts, and here he's got it. And to top it off, I have to put my smiley face on because Dirt Bike Magazine came up because they wanted to do the intro of the 97 motorcycle after the races. So here, Mike, you got to go ride this bike for the magazine afterwards since you're so happy. And I'm just like, I was in such a bad mood, but I had to go whip the thing around and take some pictures, which ended up looking really cool. So that season ends, or that West Coast ends, and I'm just going, what's my redemption? And they go, oh, there's the East Coast. There's like 9 rounds of East. And I'm all, when does it start? 2 weeks. I'm there. Sign me up. So, and I didn't even care if I had a mechanic. I didn't care. Just give me the bikes. I've learned to work on bikes. I can work on them. I'll drive back there. I'll do the work. I'll put everything I can into this, and I'll hopefully come out successful. You never know. Get back there. I got so much competition. You got Mike Brown, who's no slouch ever, even now in his 50s, you know, or whatever. He's a rocket. And I got Keith Bowen, who's a legend, right? And I'm like, he's the KTM guy. So that's their KTM East guy. I got Gene Newmack. I got Todd DeHoop. I had Kevin Walker, who in the East Coast, you don't touch Kevin Walker at a local race. He just runs off and hides. And I'm going, oh, it could have been a little easier, right? It's like, this is going to suck. So I get back there, and I have nowhere to stay. I got nothing to do. First race is in Danville, Virginia, a track I've never been to. It was amazing. I think I won both motos. I was parked next to Brock Sellards, nicest guy in the world. He was like, anything you need, man, I'll help you. So the race is over, and I go, where am I going to go? Like, I don't know where to go. I met some guys, this guy David Colton and Steve Litz, and they lived in Kentucky. And they're like, hey, come make Kentucky your home and just stay here. And Steve Litz lived right down the street from Muddy Creek. So I'm like, maybe. So I get hooked up with them. I stay with them. I start training with them. Well, they're best friends with Mike Brown. So now I'm out practicing with Brownie during the week, but I'm scared because I only have 2 bikes. And I got 9 races. If I jack one of these bikes up, I can't rebuild the motor. So I'm going, you got to be careful. So I borrowed some guy's KX125, and I just started ringing that thing out during the weeks. But we had all these races. We did Red Bud. We did Englishtown, New Jersey. Did you ever race that track?
I never raced it. No.
Oh, my gosh. It was rad. And it was the year Ricky Carmichael just turned pro. So I remember all this stuff. He just turned pro that year, and so he was at Englishtown. And, oh, gosh, it was amazing. So I get through all of it. We had the same situation as the West Coast. Keith Bowen, Mike Young. Keith Bowen, Mike Young. And we're just doing this. And it's like, oh, boy, this is going to come down to the last race again. And I've never been to Muddy Creek. So Muddy Creek, we get there, and I'm nursing some little injuries because I dabbed my foot again, and my knee's just not happy. And I'm going, I gotta win. I don't know what the deal is. Well, luckily for me, there's a West and East Coast shootout as well, and Lance was there, so he and I get to go head to head. And I am leading the first moto of the race, and I fall in this stupid little corner, and Keith goes by me, and Brownie goes by me, and the hoop goes by me. I'm going, this is horrible. So I got to catch back up. So I catch up, I pass them all, and I get back to second, and Keith's within my sight. Second moto, whole shot, staying there the whole moto, and just won and got the championship. And it was like I came across the finish line and didn't realize. I'm like, I just won. This is what you dream of, you know. I just won. And the best part was I won. I beat the West and the East, so I won the championship, and I won the East-West shootout. It was awesome. And it was just, I don't know, it was one of those moments, David, where you just sit there and go, is this really real? And then they hand you the plaque, and you're just like, this is legit. Oh, my gosh, it's so cool. So, and it was I think it was my weekend of my birthday. So I was going to turn 25. And I was like, oh, my gosh, this is cool. This is so cool. It's my birthday weekend. I win this championship. And Husaberg was they were so stoked. KTM wasn't so happy because they wanted theirs to win. But we beat them out. And that Husaberg was unbelievable. That bike was so good. So good. I mean, it handled great. It was so fast. And it was just the cockpit of it was just so nice. It was very flat and low. And the tank went really low, so all the weight was low. That thing was unbelievable to ride, and it was so smooth. It just fit my riding style like a glove. And so we did that, and a few months go by, and I'm like, all right, well, 97's coming, and I don't know what we're going to do. And I'm out riding at Glen Helen, and Albertine's out there, a bunch of guys are out there, and there's this gnarly section in the front, and I'm wheeling in through this thing, and all of a sudden the freaking frame or something broke, and I just go over the bars, and all I remember is Albertine just barely skims over me. And he was like, comes back, dude, Mike, are you okay, man? I'm so sorry. And sorry, there's nothing to do. Well, the swing arm snapped. So I called KTM and Husaberg and was like, hey, guys, this is a problem. And they go, there's something happened. And they were just like, are you threatening us? And I'm like, no, I'm just saying we can't have this happen. I could have gotten hurt and been done. And they didn't want to sign me. And it was kind of weird. I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm not threatening you. I'm just telling you we have a problem with this thing. Let's fix it. And so then we got that resolved. It was kind of weird because I was like, what am I going to do next year if I don't have a ride? So they finally signed me literally a week before the first race. Didn't even get to ride the bike. Never practiced on it. Never set the suspension up. I just kind of went in with just a rough setting. The bike is completely different. Horrible. So the gas tank's really tall and high and fat, so you got this big ramp to get up forward on. The other one was more smooth. So the bike just wasn't the same. Motor's the same, but that was just, it changed the whole ergo of the bike. So throw the suspension on, we go to the round one, which is in Cottonwood, Arizona. And it's a full field right now. We got Kawasaki showing up with like a works bike for Ty Davis. We got guys building these works Husabergs and all these bikes, and ATK comes out with a full works bike for Scott Myers. And I'm like, dang, dude. And Mike Healy's there, and he's on an IMS bike. And I'm telling you, there's 40 guys on the gate, right? And this is how I make my living, so I got to do good, you know. And I was on an incentive program that year, so it wasn't really salary. It was more you win, you get bigger money. So I was like, yeah, I want that one. So I haven't ridden. Arms are going to pump up like a rock. And first moto, I get out to this lead. I'm just gone, like 7 seconds out in front. And just little by little, Lance catches me, and then he passes me. And I'm just like, oh, and my arms were a rock. So he worked me over that first moto bad. Second moto, whole shot again, gone. I'm like you can hear people yelling in this video I have, and they're like, go, Mike, run away. And I'm laughing because that's what I'm thinking. Go as hard as you can for the first couple laps, get some air on these guys and some room, and then back it down a little bit. So I did. And I had him by probably 10 seconds, and he just whittled and whittled because I couldn't make my bike turn. It would just push the front end out and it wash out the whole time, and it was horrible. So it handled good in the straight line and through whoops, but it just wouldn't turn. And so his bike just went anywhere he wanted. It was unbelievable. And so I get to the last 2 laps of the moto, and he finally passes me. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm not giving up. And I just charged back on him and just battled. We battled all the way to the end. Like he says in this video for Moto World, he goes, I don't know. It was 2, then 1. Then it was 1, then 2. He goes, I didn't know if it was going to be 2 or 1 that was going to win this thing. And that's how I felt. I was like, we pushed it, and we won by almost a minute. in the second moto. It was just a pace that I've never gone, and we were just going for it. And not that anybody else wasn't going fast, but the pace was just unbelievable. So I go, this is how the whole year is going to be. It's going to be crazy. So then you go to round 2. That's at Glen Helen. That's a week after. So we got a week off and go. So I go, maybe we can get some suspension testing in between here and get this thing working better. So we kind of had a little bit of time, but not much. And I get to Glen Helen, and I'm just off. It's one of those days where you're like, I just don't even want to be here today. I just want to go home. And so I get out there, and I'm just like not clicking. And we did a Saturday thing, and I'm just like, I'm just not clicking. Track's just weird, and I just don't know what's wrong. So we change a bunch of stuff, and then I come back out Sunday, drive out, and get out there, and it was just I don't know, it's just a weird day. And I go out for first practice, and I'm behind Scott Myers, and we come around this corner, and all of a sudden they threw in this whoop section that wasn't even there. So you turn the corner, and you're on the gas, and all of a sudden these whoops just show up. So you're just yard sailing. And I see him just tank slapping like this, and I'm going, oh, crap. So I kind of wheelied up on the edge of this wall and kind of just kept it up there instead of being in him. And I saved myself. He breaks his collarbone in front of me, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't good. So you go through there, and then you do this left, and then there's this right, and there's this huge table, and then there's a single. And it's probably like 90 feet. And I looked at it, and I go, I can probably jump this. Mike Keeley the week before was jumping it off to the side. I can probably hit it. If I have to, I'll hit that, So I'm doing a couple laps, and my mechanic's like, yeah, you're looking good, This was second practice, actually. And he's like, you're looking good, but pick it up a little bit. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, I'm just going to jump that thing and just call it a day, and it'll give me like a 3-second a lap gain, right? So I come around the corner. I grab a gear. I think I probably went, probably second to third maybe. And I just cross rut, and it sends me straight up and down. And I'm going, okay, this is not going to end well. So I brace, and I land, and I case the jump on the frame. And the landing jump's like this. And there's like 200 people standing here watching, and I'm going, oh my God, what's going to happen here? And I just take the handlebars to my chest, and it just slow motion looked like you're doing a flying W in slow motion. All I can see is the catch fence down there on the starting line. I'm like, I'm going to hit this fence. And before I know it, I'm just toppling. The bike's running me over. And the bike actually hits me, and then it just rolls away from me. Like, it was kind of a weird moment. And so, yeah, it was a tough moment right there, because that was the moment that changed the next course of my life. And I realized that something happened, and I couldn't figure it out. I went from this high, winning this championship on my birthday weekend and all this, and 6 months later, some tragedy thing just happened to me. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm good. I'm totally good. I'll be fine. And I can remember this day. It was so weird, because I remember all the people around me. I remember the people running over. And some awesome people came to my rescue there. And John Anderson, there was a whole bunch of guys. Tom White comes over. There's so many names. I can't remember them all right now. But one of them that I won't forget is our friend that just passed away, Mike Keeley. Mike Keeley stopped, and ran over, and held my hand, and looked down at me, and told me it's going to be okay. And then he started crying. And his tears were dripping. I'm laying flat on my back, right? And the tears are dripping onto my face. And he's just, I've never seen a moment like this for me. He's a hardcore dude. He's no joke. He's Mike Keeley, dude. He's bad to the bone, right? And here's this guy, humbles himself, and just comes over to his buddy and goes, you're going to be okay. And they flip me over and all that. And meanwhile, I'm scared to death, because I feel all this stuff in my body that doesn't feel right. I feel warmth, and it's just something's not feeling right. It's just on fire and just weird. And I just in bad pain. And I'm like, something's wrong. And I told them right when they came to me, I think I'm paralyzed. So in a nutshell, they flip me over onto the hard board, and they call the air ambulance to come pick us up, because they're going to take me to Loma Linda. And he's with me all the way until they put me in. And I can still see Mike Keeley standing outside of the ambulance going, it's going to be okay. And he keeps telling me that as tears are running down his face like this. He don't know that I just got paralyzed. I didn't know that that's what just happened. But God and I had to talk about it a lot, all the way there. I'm just like, why? Why me? Why? And he goes, I have a plan. It's bigger than your plan. And I was like, okay, can I handle this plan? Because I don't know if I can handle this plan. You're going to be fine. I'm like, okay. It was weird. So anyways, Jeez. I segued right into all of that. Sorry about that, but it's like.
No, that was the next question. So.
Yeah, that was a weird deal. And that's when life takes its change, and it like it's like you just got the rug swept out from under you, and you don't even know you're just sitting here, and everybody else is having to care for you. You don't know what's going on. Like you can't do anything for yourself. And so you're dependent on everybody. And that was the part that was just so humbling and so weird. Racers are strong. We're strong-headed. We're strong mentally. And when this happens, it breaks you. Like it just breaks you. And if you don't have your faith to lean on, what do you have?
I can't imagine. Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
Yeah, and I was so grateful because that's where I was like, okay. And I remember I was in the hospital bed at Loma Linda, and there's a pastor, his name's Raul Reese, Calvary Chapel, and Chuck Smith, who founded Calvary Chapel, and Lance Cook. And these guys were at the foot of my bed. I couldn't wake up, and I'm like,
oh, really?
What? And these guys are at the foot of my bed praying over me. And I'm just like, what in the heck is going on here? You don't even know what's going on. I mean, I'm in surgery. I'm here. I'm there. You're having this scan, that scan. Your whole life is just flipping out from under you. And I don't realize what the other people are going through. You know, I'm going through this myself, but what's my wife at the time going through? What was my brother, my dad? Crazy story. My dad's in the announcing tower. Do you remember Dave Brocious?
Yeah.
Yes, Dave, great guy, right? And his daughter works at KTM. So Dave's announcing with my dad. They're up in the announcing tower. And you know where that is at Glen Helen. It's on the other side. I was way over here. Well, Dave's telling him, Mike, get down there. Something bad happened. Go, get down there. My dad's pacing, and he couldn't. Because could you imagine? He started this 24 years before this. This was his dream, was to see his kid rise to stardom and do well racing motocross and make a living out of it. And it might have just came to an end. And he felt the guilt of that. And we don't really talk about it. And we haven't.
You guys have never had that conversation?
No. And it's been a long time, you know, and we, almost 29 years. And we haven't really talked about it. And it's gnarly because I feel bad. I always ask my ex-wife. I have a good relationship with her. So, we have kids together. So I'm like, hey, she'll always be their mom. But I'm like, where was he? And my little brother actually came out for his first time ever in all the years since he quit. Never came out to see his big brother. He's all, my big brother's famous, I'm like, I ain't famous, but in your eyes maybe. But he's all, I want to come see my big brother race, And so
he was there?
He came out. I had some friends come out, and it was like, why did this happen in front of them? It destroyed everyone. So you don't think about the other people around you that are affected. But it affected a lot of people. And it was neat. We didn't have the community we have now, like where you have Instagram and social media. We didn't have all that. And so I was getting letters written from people, hundreds and hundreds from all over the world. And I'm like, people are so kind and love you so much. And it's like, you never even knew these people existed. It was the neatest thing. And you really need that when you're going through that,
Yeah, I often wonder that when somebody gets hurt badly, like, what is it like from that side as far as the community response? So that's good to hear. That's great to hear. So when you were laying there after it happens, did you get knocked silly at all, or were you kind of aware?
I got knocked silly. No, I definitely got knocked silly. It broke my helmet and everything, so it was bad. I was face first in the dirt, and I knew what happened, but I was jacked up, and I was in shock. Really, that's what it was. I was totally in shock, and I didn't really know what was going on. But it's a weird feeling that you can't explain to somebody, but it's the feeling that I felt, which I still feel to this day, is like if you smacked your funny bone and that tingle that goes, that thing that goes up, that's how it felt. My whole body was like tingling. And I remember this off-duty fire department guy came running over, this first guy there, and I go, don't move me. Like my arm was ripped out of socket too. So my arm was completely ripped out of socket and it's just dangling here, like stuck. I had no strength in it at all. And he's like, you're paralyzed. And I'm all, yeah. And he could tell just because my legs were in the weirdest position. And I actually, in the car, had the gear to show you. So I can show it to you later.
You kept the gear?
Yeah. They cut it off and somebody kept it. I have all of it. I have the whole shebang of it, my gloves, everything. And you can see where the bike just destroyed me. It was pretty gnarly. I just didn't keep my boots. I got rid of the boots, but I have the rest of it.
So do you think the bike hit you? Or like you said you thought the bars hitting you actually?
So the bars hit me for sure. And then the reason I think that the bars did it was because I didn't have control of the flying W. And normally you would squeeze the bike with your legs and you would stop that from happening. And it kind of came up like this. And then I slid down the forks. And then the bike just annihilated me, It just, because the 4-stroke, that's the problem with today's day, the day and age that we live in is the 2-stroke. You crash on that thing and it just it goes its own direction. It didn't have that inertia the 4-stroke has. And the 4-stroke will follow you and hunt you down. And that's what it did. It just drove me into the ground. And I mean, it broke my visor into pieces, and my Shoei was just my helmet. I still have it. You can see all the stress cracks and where the chunks are missing. So yeah, I was a little jacked up when it happened. I mean, it definitely put me in the dirt pretty hard. And it was a gnarly hit. I mean, 90 feet to nothing onto just frame. And then just all of that just, ugh, and it just.
That's hard to listen to.
It's hard to talk about.
So take me through kind of the following, let's say 3-6 months. The physical process of dealing with that and coming to terms with it mentally. I got to believe that's maybe even the worst side.
Yep. So you're in the hospital for normally 3, maybe 4 weeks. Some people, I think I was in there for 3, and they wait till you're stable. And I remember the first time they sat me up, I felt like I was sitting on a bowling ball. And it was just like, whoa. And I was all totally like loopy and like felt like I was going to pass out. So they put a fan on you. But it was really weird because I was sitting on a hospital bed. It's not that high. I felt like I was on the Empire State Building looking down. I was like, whoa, because you can only feel from your sensation up. So you don't feel like you felt down here. So your balance is way different. So that was really odd. But then they sent me to this place, Costa Rica, for rehab. And I was there for 2 months. And what's really interesting, I try and explain to people, is for the first little bit of your life, you're on your back. So you don't see anything. You don't know where you're at. You don't know what the building looks like because you're on your back, right? So even when they transport you there, you're on your back. They roll you in. You're on your back. You're just like, where am I? This is so weird. So Costa Rica was the place to go back then. And they put you through extensive physical therapy and occupational therapy, and they basically all they do, and even to this day they try and say, oh, there's you got to go to this place, you got to go to this place. It's a farce. There are some places you don't want to go to, but majority of the places they're all on the same page. There's no magic wand. Doctor says there's probably no chance you're going to walk. Okay, so you just got to go, okay, let's just make the best of what we got. So they teach you how to live with the injury. And so they would teach me, like they would try and do weights. The first weight I picked up was like a 1-pounder. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so weak from all the surgery and stuff. I had no strength. And then from this shoulder being torn completely out, it was bad. So that was going to take a while, the rehab. There was some mental rehab they put you through because your whole life just got spun out. You just got flipped 360. So we had to do some of that. And then occupational therapy, where they teach you how to do basically everything from your level down gets shut off. No more works. So nothing's working. So bladder and bowel, all that's off. So basically, in a nutshell, they teach you how to manage that on a daily basis. So they give you what's called a bowel program. They give you your catheterization. So you have to self-cath so many times a day. And all of that, you've got to learn. And until you get that mastered, they can't send you home. Then you got to think about when you go home, how am I going to get in my house? How am I going to get in the bathroom? How am I going to get to the toilet? How am I going to transfer? There's so many variables, and I don't know, we're not used to sitting in a wheelchair and propelling around. We're used to just getting around doing our stuff. So it's a whole different deal. How am I going to get in a car? How am I going to drive? All those things were going through my mind when I was in rehab, and it was nice. I had tons of people visiting and stuff, which was super nice, but there's nobody to teach you how to do it. Like, you're like, what do I do? I remember Mitch Payton called and offered some help and some other things. And so I'm like, I'm going to take as much help as I can get. These guys live in these chairs. So that's how I met up with David Bailey. It was my hero, right? So David Bailey and his friend Jim Knob and Gary Butcher. I don't know if you ever remember Gary. Gary was before your time. Okay. He was a Honda test rider back in the days.
I remember him talking about the Knob guy.
Yeah. So Jim is like, legend. And they all took me under their wing. Gary came over. David came over. They all came over. They all taught me different things. And thank God for those guys, because if they didn't come over, I wouldn't have known how. I couldn't get off the couch. I couldn't transfer. I didn't know what kind of seat cushion to sit in. I didn't understand the severity of sitting on the wrong cushion or not sitting on the right cushion in like an airplane. Like they think, oh, I'm just going to sit in an airplane seat. No, you ain't sitting on an airplane seat. You're sitting on a cushion. So they taught me that. They taught me how to get into a hand cycle and start exercising. And the first time I got into the hand cycle and started to pedal, I just bawled. I've never cried so hard in my life because I hadn't felt the wind in my face for like 4 or 5 months, 6 months. And it's just weird. And it's a mental game. Like, is life over? Am I done? And these guys came in and they're like, no, this is what you do. This is how you're going to do it. And the Jim Knob was funny because he made me get in the beanbag and try and get out of it. Is this a joke? I'm like,
are you just being a dick?
Yes, like this is not right. And he goes, get out of that, young. And I'm all, oh my God. So I had a great group of people, and I'm thankful for those guys that came around and helped me, because without them, I wouldn't be probably the person I am today. And they helped me. Just my learning curve went like this. So it's kind of like our motocross guys coming to your motocross school, right?
Yeah.
You're helping them grow way faster. And so that's what happened to me. And it was unbelievable because within about a 6-month period, I was transferring into a car. I got hand controls put in my car so I could drive, and I was starting to be independent. My wife at the time was a flight attendant, so she would leave me at home, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, if I fall, how am I going to get up, right? So I'm like, this is so scary. So I had to learn. I had no choice. So I had to figure all that out. And I get a phone call, literally. I'm going to jump right into the next part of this, but I get a phone call, and it's this 2 guys, Dale Davis and Don Lieb. Michael Lieb.
Don Lieb, yeah.
Yeah. So they had the agency, advertising agency. I worked with them a ton. I helped them with Extreme, and we did some mountain bike stuff together and all kinds of things tied together. And they called and said, Michael, exhaust. You want to build 4-stroke exhaust? Yeah, Dale, that'd be cool. And I'm like, how will we do this? They go, well, let's go meet these guys and we're going to do this stuff. And so long story short, they took me to a place that had the ability to help us get started. And they go, you'll have your own business. And I'm like, wow. And they were looking out for me. I'm like, you don't have to do this for me. Yeah, we'll be partners, but still, this is so rad. So long story short, they get me introduced to these guys. I bring the technology that I remembered from Europe that I brought back with me and some of the specs and the designs to get these pipes quiet and make them work. And we started Big Gun Exhaust Systems. And the funny thing about the name of that is I wanted to backtrack to 93 when I had that factory Honda that Eric Krippa built. Dirt Rider magazine tested it, and they called it Mike Young's Big Gun Honda XR628. And I go, what a cool name, Big Gun. Rad, right?
Yeah.
So that's how Big Gun was formed. And it was crazy because we started in 97, right after I got hurt. So it was like, did the first, year of rehab and all that stuff that I had to do. And I just was over it. Nothing was changing. So it was like, time to get on with it, and you're not going to walk. So let's get on with it. So started riding my bike and stuff. So they called, we do this. And then before you know it, we start Big Gun. We start with like 2 pipes. We had a Husaberg pipe, and then Yamaha was coming out with the YZ400. And I have a really cool Yamaha story for you really quick, and then I'll finish this. I'm in the hospital, And Larry Griffiths comes in because I didn't tell anybody, but we were working on, I was going to be the test rider for the new Yamaha. So that was going to be my job. It's like, we're going to pay you. You're just going to ride, and you can race if you want, whatever. Doug's going to ride it, in the races. I'm like, all right, cool. So he came in with a framed contract. He didn't want to give it to me when I'm in the hospital. He felt bad, but he goes, here's your contract. And he's all, I know it's void, but
that's pretty cool.
I thought that was the coolest thing. And KTM came in. They took care of me. Selvaraj came in and goes, we're paying you out of your contract. You're totally good. I'm like, what? You don't have to do that? Just started, So they took care of me. But it was all great. But the big gun thing started, and it turned into something I never thought it would have ever turned into. It was unbelievable. Never owned a business in my life. Never ran a business in my life. Didn't know where to even start. And before we knew it, right before I sold it in 2009, we were being, and you don't create a business just because you're cool. You get there and you get successful because of so many people.
Yeah.
And there are so many amazing people that were part of that big gun story that I thank, and all the distributors that I thank that were all over the world. These people did all the work. I had a great group of people working for me that I thank because they would show up every day. Whether it was raining, pouring, sleet, they were sick, whatever, they were at work. And I love those people. I managed about 16 people at Big Gun. And what was crazy is with our manufacturing facility, we produced in our last year, we turned $4.3 million. And the craziest thing is we did 18,000 four-stroke pipes. Jeez. More than almost anybody did, just four-stroke pipes. But we had so many part numbers. I had a ton of part numbers. So when I was getting ready to get divorced in 2009, and it was just things were going different direction. My wife, I love her to death at the time, and she's sweet, and I was just going a different direction. And I was like, we had 2 kids, and just, I don't know, it's time for just a change. And when we were going through that, I was like, I'm going to sell this place. And I had a coating shop as well, doing ceramic coating, and I go, I'm going to sell that too, but I'll sell that later. And so I put Big Gun up on the market and was like, I'm going to sell it. And so Big Donnie came with Danny Laporte, and they were wanting to look at it. And then Mitch wanted to talk about it. And I remember sitting in Mitch's office, and he goes, how many pipes did you sell? And he looked on the thing. He goes, 18,000 pipes? And I'm all, yep. And he was like, holy mackerel. I mean, I did so many more pipes than most of these guys ever thought. We were doing really well.
Was it a lot of motorcycle pipes, or was it quad stuff too? Because I know that market's huge, or was.
We sold the randomest things. Like we did so many XR250s and XR400s and minis. Oh God, our mini pipes were on every mini bike.
Yeah.
XR80s, XR50s, all that stuff. XR or CRF 150s, whatever you call them now. We were on all of that. KLR 650s. Sold thousands of those.
Is that right?
Yeah. And it's like Husaberg's, Huskies, and then the side-by-sides came. But the big part was the utility quads. We did do a lot of quads, like sport quads, TRXs, and all that. But the utility quads was huge. I mean, it was blowing me away how many of those things we'd sell. I'm all, these guys are farmer guys, and they're putting big gun pipes on. And so we did it was numerous ones. And then right when I was starting to sell it was when the side-by-side craze was starting to go. And we did rhinos and we did all that stuff. But the numbers were unbelievable and not really motocross.
Yeah.
We had some. I mean, in 2005, we were one of the title sponsors for Star Racing. So most people don't know. Star Racing was based at our shop.
Gosh, I don't remember that.
Yeah. So they had Sean Collier and, oh man, I'm going to draw a blank right now, but they had some pretty good guys.
I think Will Hahn was on there originally, right?
Yeah, so it was Martin Davalos and Matt Gorky, and Sean, and there was 4 guys. And so anyways, they had 2 East, 2 West, and it was pretty amazing because we brought them in house, and what was so cool is I started racing this NASCAR truck and like 2001. And when I started racing this little NASCAR truck, we can talk about that later or something, but it was awesome. So I'm racing this little local series, and I get to meet all these people. And one of the guys I met was Bob Pattison from Lucas Oil. He was the president of Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil is an awesome company, huge, and man, so conservative, just awesome people. And I was like, connected with these guys. And so I connect, and they sponsor my race car. And here I am driving, the only guy driving this NASCAR truck with one hand, right? They're like, how is this guy doing this, right? And I'm competitive. And I mean, the first year of the series, I got the Rookie of the Year. And the second year, I won some races and top 3'd a whole bunch of times. And I think I got like second or third overall in the whole season.
So how were you doing that? One hand controlled brake and throttle?
So I had this hand would control steering, and I had a special steering quickener and a steering box. The box was set up so that when I would move it quick, it wouldn't go as fast as I would move, because if I would do that, I would just spin out. So it would slow it, but then the quickener made it to where you didn't have to turn very far. So I could go all the way to here, and that's like almost a full turn. Okay, so not far. So then my left hand had the hand control, and I would push down towards my leg and forward for brake. So I would pin it down and then up and then brake. So you'd power brake a lot of the times because the truck would get tight, which let me tell you, people have no knowledge of how hard it is to drive a NASCAR. It's way harder than people think. They think, oh, this guy just go fast and turn left. Oh, no. It's gnarly. Buddy Antonez raced it, and he can tell you it's gnarly. I mean, I threw him out there. He bought one of my trucks. I threw him out there at Irwindale one day and just go, all right, yeah, just follow me. And then I just boned out on him, just to see what he would do. And he picked it up pretty fast, but he's like, whoa, things come up quick. And he goes, you're sliding this big old beast, and it's like, you're working.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know how you do it with one hand. I don't either, but, I would just, I don't know, I power braked it a lot of times because the thing would start pushing, and I would have to power brake, and I'd get out of that thing, and I'd be soaking wet. It was so hot inside that car. But anyways, during that, we got the Lucas Oil deal. And I went to Bob Patterson and said, I'm going to introduce you to Bobby Regan. He owns the team. Here's his, portfolio. And he goes, oh, we'll help you out. So he wrote Bobby a check right then and there. And it was the title sponsor, Lucas Oil. And they had a big old Lucas Oil tent. And it's where it all kind of started,
Yeah.
And now look at how big they are now. So that was kind of cool. So then then I sold the old Big Gun. And
who bought it?
I sold it to a guy who was he just happened to, Larry, I forget Larry's name, but Larry his family owned a bunch of property down in Santa Ana, and they sold it all for just
Tons.
Lots of money, and he just needed to put money in places, and so he bought it. And what's so cool is this Big Gun's still around today, and they're doing a lot of side-by-side stuff, I think, but I don't really pay attention anymore to it. It's just such a different world, and I'm out doing this other stuff, so it's like, let them go do their thing. And then I had a coating shop that I sold to Harry that used to own Trinity Racing. I did ceramic coating. So we did all the headers for all the big automotive companies. So we did a lot for Gibson. We did Thorley, BBK. I mean, all these big header companies. And they're still doing business as well. I'm like, this is pretty cool. I left 2 things that still survive to this day. And I was very proud and grateful and thankful to the Lord for that.
Yeah, that's cool to have Don and those guys come to you and go, hey, let's get this started. That was
very kind, huh? Yeah, I ended up buying them both out over time, and I owned it all by myself, and I just thought it better that way. It was hard because it was getting pulled different directions, and it's just easier to do it by yourself. I'm doing it anyways. I run it every day, so they were like, no problem. So I just bought them all out, and they did their own thing. Don went and bought like a nice motorhome, and Dale got bought out a little earlier, and it was neat. I mean, it's just a blessing. I thank them to this day. I hadn't seen Don for years, and I just ran into him at a go-kart track at Cal Speed, 5 years ago. He was out there with Michael, and we were having fun. My little guy was racing, and so we got to hang out and talk for a little bit. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it was rad.
Okay, we'll get back into where the heck we even are here. So tell me a little bit about sort of and it sounds like some of those people, David and those guys coming in and helping you just get up to speed, and then Don kind of helping you get a new focus. I think anyone that races, regardless of your level, that's our biggest fear, right? Is what happened to you. And you have to either, in order for you to enjoy the sport, you have to just either try to put it out of your head or you make peace with it. I remember when I was racing, I said, well, all right, if I get paralyzed, this is what I'll do. I'll go live with my mom. I'll work at her marina. And and that'll be my life. And like, I just went, okay, so that's that. And I don't want to think about it anymore. And it worked for a while. I mean, shoot, 7 or 8 years. And then you get, you know, at a point, for me anyway, I was kind of like, you start the risk reward starts doing this, and you go, I don't know if I'm willing to do this anymore. But to me, I think every motocross guy, we're a little type A, like we want to go. We want to be going. And so that's the hardest thing. And even Matt Byton, who was just injured, you can hear it in his texts and his posts on Instagram. Like, it's like it's right out of your own head of like what you would be saying, you know? And so I guess what I'm asking is, what's to get over it mentally and get yourself to where you go, okay, let's just move on with it. You know, you even said, let's get on with it. How did you do that? I'm assuming it's with the help of those guys, but like, how did you do that? You know, like, it's almost like the stages of grief, you know, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. Did you go through all those, and what was the catalyst to get you there?
That's a great question too. I'm glad you asked it, because it was, my transition was pretty easy. I think my faith helped a ton. I had one moment where I just was in despair, and I was talking to my mom, and I just started breaking stuff. I was laying on the ground trying to do an exercise they told me to do, and nothing was working, and my leg wouldn't move. So I just started breaking stuff. And I was so upset. I broke our dinner table, this table. I'm throwing chairs. Every ounce of my anger came out in that few minutes, and it was gone. I never looked back. I said, okay, that was it. I'm sorry. I just did what I did. I just destroyed the kitchen, but I needed to get it out. And I got it out, and I moved on. I think what helped was you have to have purpose.
Yeah.
Most of these guys don't have purpose. They don't see it. They don't accept it. They don't accept the injury. They're fighting that they're going to walk again. And David, it's like, you know what, when the doctor says there's 1% chance, then you better start looking at the B plan and go pick up the appetizer menu and go, what's on it? So David and them come in, and they go, hey, want to do marathons? You want to try some triathlons? You want to do some of this? You want to do some of that? Okay. Keep him busy and constantly keeping the wheel moving forward. That's the deal. When it sits stagnant, bad things happen. Mine goes all over the place, and then you turn into a vegetable and you go downhill. I just never stopped. I maybe had a couple months in between there before Big Gun and all that started that I was just like, okay, let me figure this out. And that's when David and them came around and said, you got to get purpose, you got to this, you got to that. And so the problem with this industry or this injury is you got to have something for everything. So you got to have a wheelchair to do this. You got to have a wheelchair to do that. And so it took time. And actually, thanks to Jeremy McGrath, he bought me, I think he bought me my first wheelchair, and he bought me my bicycle. He did it on his own. He didn't nothing. And then Greg Albertine sent me this humongous check, just randomly, just in the mail. He just opened this thing up, and there's like $9,000 or $10,000 check. And he goes, I hope this blesses you, because it blessed me to give it to you. And I'm like, whoa. So I used that to buy another piece of equipment. So all these people were being kind and allowing me to go do other things. Otherwise, I would be sitting at home doing absolutely nothing. So that was how cool it was for me, because the industry came around me. We didn't have like what we have now, the support groups and things. We didn't have anything. There was no help. And it's like you just kind of had to figure it out yourself. But I had 3 cool guys that helped me figure it out.
That's all. That speaks to, it speaks to the person that Albie is, that Jeremy is,
Yep.
But it also speaks to you. They wouldn't have done that for someone they, you know.
Thank you.
But it really does. It speaks to the person you are. I mean, all of us that know you, you're awesome. They wouldn't have done that for some guy who was not as genuine, you know.
Thank you so much, Ping. You felt that, dude.
Okay, shoot, I'm lost here. Okay, so I guess what else? I mean, you kind of already touched on this, but like from the time, you know, you did the Big Gun thing, you got into truck racing, you sold the companies. I mean, you that's been, you've kind of taken some time doing all that stuff. Was there anything else between there and Road to Recovery that we didn't hit?
Nope. I just was raising my boys, and I went through a little depression during that time because I thought, I got lonely. I was like, I didn't invest into my wife like I should have.
So I wanted to ask about that. Was the injury, did it contribute to that marriage?
Yeah. It wasn't the injury. It changed me.
Yeah.
It hardened me and made me a little bit of a different person. I mean, I didn't harden me. I don't want to say it that way. It just changed me. I just looked at life differently, and I don't know. And the problem is owning a business, the business became everything, and it just consumed my whole life. Every day was the business. And you had no personal life. You leave and the freaking alarm goes off. Guess who has to go back down, right? So I just wasn't that person. I didn't come home and talk and want to share my stories. And we just kind of grew apart because of it. And then after we split, it was like I just went through some major depression. I've never had depression like that. I mean, I was so depressed that, and this is sad, when you're this bad, you don't want help. I was so bad, I'd be driving down the freeway, I'd close my eyes and just not want to open them again. I just keep them closed. And God kept reminding me, I have a plan. I have a plan. Just trust me. I'm like, I'm trying, but I can't do this anymore, And it was a lonely place. I was very lonely.
I mean, it's totally understandable.
And I was living by myself. My boys were coming back and forth, and here I was just in our house by myself. And at this time, all my friends have kind of gone their way, and there's nobody around. And my family were a little all distant anyways. So I couldn't just go, hey, Dad, come down. My dad's not one of those guys who's going to just come hug you and love on you. He's Big Mike, and he's just always going to be that way. And I didn't have that loving, caring somebody to come put their arm around me. So the church became that person for me.
Yeah. Which church? Calvary?
I was bopping in between. I was going to a Water of Life in Fontana. I went to their Bible college there, and after I went there, then I served up at this church called Hillside for a while, and was doing ministry for years. And then God called me out of there during COVID and brought me to Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills.
Okay.
So that's where I call home now. And
that's Jack
couldn't
Hibbs,
have done
right?
it. Jack Hibbs,
yeah,
yeah.
amazing.
I love Jack. I couldn't have done it without that. Without those people. They really helped step me through the depression and the hard part. I never went and got help. God just solved it. It's crazy, dude.
It is crazy. And the bummer about when you got hurt was there was no support system.
No.
I think, and this is why Road to Recovery is our charity of choice. I know what you guys do, and I probably don't even know all of it. I for sure don't. But I know that there's no one else doing what you guys are doing. And so I want to talk a little bit about that.
Let's talk about it.
How did you end up there, first of all? And I mean, is that something you felt called to do, or just an opportunity, or how did you end up there?
Called is a big word. That's a tough word. So I know God placed me here because I've never had a job where I felt like this is my spot. This is all the grinding we did, all the pain, all the suffering. Now I can help somebody else. We always were taking, right? As a racer. Now I get to give every day. And I can't put a value to it, but I do feel that yes, it was part of his calling to say, Mike, this is a place. So speaking of calling, Jimmy called. Jimmy Button picked up the phone and says, hey, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm just hanging out at my buddy had a mobility place, and we were doing these vans, and he was just giving me a side job. I met him through driving at Irwindale, and his son raced too, so he sponsored me. And he goes, just come down and help me around the shop, And I was like, all right, cool, something to do. So he'd pay me some money every week, and I'd just come down and help him. And long story short, Jimmy called, and I literally said, I have nothing going on, dude. He goes, I'd like to talk to you. So he goes, all right. So he brings me to Glen Helen. Anaheim 1, and that was in 2017. So Anaheim 1, 2017. He brings me there, and I want to say I brought my boys with me too. I did. I brought my boys with me there, and go, hey, we're just gonna have a quick little meeting with Jimmy. And Jimmy just goes, he looked at me and he goes, you're the guy. And I'm all, for what? And he goes, for this job. okay, what is the job? And
You're
so,
like, I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah. And so I was like, I'm grateful, but what's the job? He goes, you're going to work for the foundation. You're going to be the rider advocate for us. And I'm all, okay. He was like the director of athlete relations. And I'm all, okay, I can probably do that. Let's figure out the details. So long story short, I meet the whole team there and all the board members and stuff. And they said, we're going to talk it through. But he goes, I want you on board. I'm like, oh man, Jimmy. And I've respected Jimmy forever. I love Jimmy. And so I'm like, man, I'd love to work with him. And I want to know more about the foundation and stuff. So anyways, they call me and they go, yeah, we're going to offer you this deal. Here's the deal. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so they wrote up what I'm supposed to do and kind of gave me the basis of it. And they said, so you're going to be handling these athletes when these guys get paralyzed. And you're going to be the guy that's going to help them navigate this. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be gnarly. So I get started and it's just like, it's gnarly. This is hard because now I didn't realize how hard it was because I went through it and I just feel like it wasn't that hard. Like I think God just brought me through it. But I see people go through it, and I'm like, did I just not experience that, or did I just forget about all that? Because this is difficult, and these people, they've got nothing. They got nothing. So you got to be their something, right? Mm-hmm. You got to be their something. You're almost kind of bringing a little hope to them, right? Shedding a little light. So it's a ministry as well, right? It's a little bit of a ministry, but it's also, I always tell people, this job is hard, but it's heartfelt. And I cry probably couple times a week because it's so hard. So Jimmy says, let's get you rolling. So we get rolling and, just a little bit about the foundation. So Jimmy, when he got hurt and when I got hurt and when David got hurt, there was no support system. There was nobody to come in and help somebody understand and navigate the SCI TBI world. There's nobody. There's nothing. I mean, nobody came into my friggin' room and said, oh, we're going to help you navigate this. This is the catheter you should use. This is the cushion you should use. Nobody really knew, okay? And so they bring me in, and Jimmy's like, he's all, look, I started this thing in 2000. It's 7 years deep, and this is how far we've gotten, and they've done a lot. And to this date, Road to Recovery has helped 122 funded athletes. So those are the guys like Matt Byton, Jesse Nelson's, Blake Savage, these, all these guys, Smaggy, all my guys. And we've helped them, and we've gotten donations over $8 million of money that's come in through the door that we've paid back out to them. And it's a lot of work. But on the backside too, we help people that aren't qualified at Road to Recovery. So there's guys that call us all day long that are amateur riders or a mountain bike guy, somebody that doesn't fit. And so to fit in our little bucket, you generally need to be somebody in the industry or really a professional motocross / supercross license holder or past license holder. So somebody like Todd DeHoop, he qualified because he was past. And so those guys, and then we moved over just a couple years ago into the extreme sports world. And so that's how we helped out like Brad Baker. Brad Baker was the dirt track racer champion, multiple time champion, and he got hurt at the X Games on a dirt track bike. And so he qualified through that. Okay, so everybody has to qualify through these deals. And so there's guys that call us all the time that don't get help and have no help and need just direction. And that's where on the backside, Road to Recovery, we will help them. We just can't fund for you. So if somebody calls and says, hey, we need a little help navigating this or have an issue with something, we'll help them. But we do so many things. And it's just funny because the perspective on the outside is that Road to Recovery jumps in and then we just fundraise for these people, And it's like there's just so much more, Dave, to it.
No, and that's what I wanted you to talk about is that, one, it's a very, just in my discussions with Jimmy in the past, when we had him on the show, it's a very cleanly run organization. A lot of these charities, and I'm not going to mention other names, but big charity foundations, a huge percentage gets taken out for overhead, whatever that, whatever that is. It's a much smaller percentage that actually goes to the person that's trying to help. I think Road to Recovery is like 80-some% goes to the athletes, which is very high.
Yep.
So they keep their costs very low, and the vast majority of the money goes to the athletes, which is awesome. But, there's two things I want to mention. So for both of these, you and I have talked about this multiple times, where you'll have well-intentioned folks who somebody gets hurt, pro racer, and somebody goes, hey, I'm going to start a GoFundMe. And they get a bunch of people donating to that. Well, GoFundMe takes a huge percentage of that money. So it's a very, it's just a poor way to do it, right? It's not efficient at all. Like I said, you guys are over 80% of that goes to the thing. So if those guys would just get in touch with you and coordinate with you, run it through this organization, and they can help promote it, please, all you want. But talk a little bit about that, because first of all, we need to stop those other things. The intentions are great, but at the end of the day, you're robbing money from this person by doing that.
You just hit it on the head. So the problem with GoFundMe, it's a great place because you can put your money. Great. But what does GoFundMe do for you? Nothing. So it's great intentions that people jump out and the industry jumps out there and just goes, oh, I got to help this guy, and they get these GoFundMes going. Well, one, it doesn't benefit the athlete because they're going to take a bunch of money out. They aren't on the backside helping the athlete with their bills or navigating what's the next step or what they need help with. And there is no tax benefit at all. It's just a place to put money. So you're basically losing 10 or 15% just to put it in a bank account. Whereas with us, if you lose 8 or 10%, you're not losing because you're gaining all of what we offer. So, and I think I was telling you earlier, when I started, we created a manual for SCI TBI that's 28 pages long that tells you from A to Z what you need to know, how to prepare, how to plan, even as far as once you're out, how to get on an airplane, how to board an airplane, how to travel, how to do things again, right? Just a quick little manual. But
SOPs
GoFundMe doesn't
basically
have that. Yeah. So we bring this big old group of experience to them, just like David and Jim and Gary Butcher brought to me this experience. Let's help you navigate this and be right to the pro class, right? We're going to skip all the other classes. So I appreciate the people for jumping out and doing that, but at the same point, it really hurts. And then it's hard for us because we try and get started and the wheel is already, the cog's in motion over here, and we're trying to stop that while we start ours, and it doesn't flow.
Yeah.
And so it creates more of a problem than it does a benefit. So I would hope that people in the future, once they see this, will go, hey, let's reach out to Road Recovery first. Let's see if they can help. If they can help, we'll proceed forward. If they can't, they'll give us the direction of which way we should go. But we're so apt to just jump on it and people want to just help. And I just wanted to slow down a little bit because you don't have to jump in that fast.
Yeah.
Let the dust settle a little bit.
Yeah. And as far as funding, if you are not a pro racing or pro athlete, you guys can't help. You said you have your parameters you have to stay within. You can't help every single person with money. However, there are other things you can do, like this knowledge that you guys bring, all this experience and things you can help them with. But there's more than just that, right? Like there's navigating insurance, there's navigating the medical machine, which is convoluted and dare I say corrupt, and well, however, talk a little bit about that, just how you guys help with those other things outside of just money.
So I'll read some of the different things that we do. I know most of this, but it's just easier. As we provide the guidance through the SCI TBI maze. We negotiate. This is where it's gnarly. We discount rates on medical bills. So like for a case in point, we did in the last few years, I think we saved, somewhere on here, few millions of dollars for people. So I've literally gotten on the phone and I battle to get their bills reduced down to almost nothing. I took one that was one rider, I can't bring up his name, but he owed like $250,000 and I got it settled for 12 and done. So we'll negotiate. The medical bills, we negotiate with rehab facilities, rehab equipment, medical supplies and equipment, so wheelchairs, catheters, all that kind of stuff. We negotiate that kind of stuff for them. We help them figure out like what kind of vehicle to get, how to get behind the wheel, where to get a driving instructor. There's so many facets, right? So we do that. We provide updated information on medical, like transportation, the hospitals, the best hospital to go to in your area, or the best rehab facility that's in your area. Because there are good ones and there are bad ones, but the good ones, I mean, we want to make sure they get the best care. So we'll ship them there. We'll tell them where to go. We get them air medical transportation. I've had guys that are not even qualified that I got flown on an $80,000 med jet for $6,000, $6,000. So we negotiate all that. GoFundMe doesn't do that, right? So, and then with the collaboration of the family, you know, we build them a cause page. We create a page where we can receive donations. We do weekly updates on the athlete. We continuously talk to the athlete and the families, and we apply assistance any way we can. There's also there's these athletes that will get hurt and don't have insurance. I know that sounds crazy, but there's athletes that come to us that don't have insurance. We provide assistance and guidance to them on how to apply for emergency medical care. And we just had to do that recently. We explain how to utilize, if they've been hurt in a sanctioned race, how to use the sanctioning body's secondary insurance so that they can cover all their bills. Let's see what else. We've got, we help them with medications. There's some medications that are out there that help spinal cord injuries, some recovery. So we help them with that type of stuff. Let's see, we pay their bills. So let's say they're incapacitated and they just can't pay their bills. Road Recovery steps in. We pay their bills. We put them on either auto pay or whatever. We keep them surviving. Yeah. Let them heal. Let them take this time to heal, and then we'll take care of it. We take the load off. Every patient's different. Some patients, I'm all in, and I've got to navigate all that stuff. Some of them, they're just kind of do their own thing, and they just reach out when they need certain things, and that's okay. I kind of have to navigate it as according to what I'm feeling from them, you know. We also, let's see here. We've also been on, most people don't know, Road to Recovery supports the mobile medical unit. So we've bought the x-ray machine for them, and we've done all kinds of stuff with the mobile medical unit. So we work with them. We've donated over $400,000 to them to purchase equipment. We have an endowment that is for motocross, supercross, and it's worth over $1.5 million at this moment. Action sports, we have about $50,000 in. We're still working on building that up. Let's see here. What else? We're in the pits at every Supercross race, so people can come up and learn about us. We have a docu-series on YouTube people can watch and see all of our athletes and learn about the foundation. We're coming up on our 25th year, so it's pretty cool. And I've been with them since 2017, so putting some time in. We negotiated down over $1 million in athletes' bills. Pretty gnarly, right?
It's super gnarly. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think a lot of people don't know is they can be negotiated. You just think, oh, well, this is the bill. I got to pay it. Yeah. But they either find somebody like you who understands how that works. Yep. And lets you advocate for them, or be in this country illegally. And either way, you'll get free insurance. Yeah.
And that's the other problem is they don't know how to people don't understand how to advocate for themselves. So Road Recovery, we do such a good job of stepping in and doing that. And we have a great team around us to help us do that. And there's always challenges. It's never easy. I mean, we had one gentleman that got hurt in Mexico, and we've had to deal with bills, and he didn't have insurance. He's from another country. And so it got really challenging, but it's what we do. But Road Recovery is there, and we are there to help. And we had a mechanic, a few races ago that got injured at the races and, didn't qualify for our funding, but we've helped him. He would have been stuck with $1 million in bills, and we're able to get him emergency medical insurance, and it's covering basically everything. Praise God, right? So,
I mean, you saved that guy's life. Yeah. He'd never recovered, be financial bankruptcy, and
you know where it leads. It's not a good place. I mean, when that's weighing over anybody, especially someone that owns anything, you're losing it. Yeah. Yeah, and it's why I say it's a hard but heartfelt job, but it is so rewarding to and we don't do it to pump our chests. We do it to do it. I mean, hopefully you see me as a humble person, and that's who I am. I'm just Mike Young, I'm not going to brag about me. If it wasn't for all the people that helped me get here, I wouldn't be here, right? Yeah. It wasn't me. But I just want to give back to these people. The world and our industry gave so much to us and to me. This is my chance. And that's why I love Jimmy's vision with this, because there was nobody like this.
Yeah.
And now we have this foundation. And if the industry can reach out and we can help, we're here to help. I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to help them. And we'll do whatever they ask us to do, you know?
Well, you're the perfect guy for this. I love that Jimmy came to you because, one, just your personality, your demeanor, you're always in a good mood, which is rare to find. But also, if you are someone who has a spinal cord injury and you're struggling to come to terms with that, and a guy's standing there on his feet going, "Oh, you're going to be okay. We'll get you help." It's like, dude, you don't understand. Where you're like, "Hey, bud, I've been there. So let me explain. Let me walk you through it."
It's just like you said. I think you said this earlier, but it's like therapists. They're book smart. They're like doctors. They know how to do these things. But the therapists, not taking anything away from them, but they are book smart, but they're not living in it, right? So they'll do it the way they're supposed to. But then there's the way that we do it. And it's different, and everybody's different like that. So my struggle is that's a problem. Like, these guys get their first wheelchair, and it's a jalopy. I mean, the thing is huge. I can't roll in and out. And so we come in, and, our ultimate goal is to build a foundation where we can build up some money into a bank account where we can buy these guys these types of chairs and help them, because the insurance doesn't buy these things. So if you are right now, you're hurt, and the therapist puts you in a chair, you're going to be in this big old heavy chair. You can't be independent. You can't load it in the car or out of the car, and you got to do this all day long. So what do you got to do? Go buy a $90,000 van just so you can get in and out? Nobody can do that. So I step in most time with most of our athletes, and I help them fit them for smaller, lighter, tighter chairs to be able to make it to where they can be independent, because otherwise they can't be.
Why won't insurance cover a chair?
So
they give you like the generic.
So if you're in Kaiser, you're in trouble. Kaiser is the worst of all insurance. If you're spinal cord injury, you have to fight for everything. If you've got an HMO, you're a little better. But if you got a PPO, you're in good shape. So they'll buy you a chair if you have a PPO or an HMO, but you're going to get a chair that's going to be pretty heavy, and it's going to have a hard time lifting. Like, this is an ultralight chair that I'm in. It's super expensive. They don't buy that. They buy you the minimal thing possible, and that's it. I mean, when Matt Byton gets out of the hospital, I can almost assure you he will be in a hospital chair to go home. He can't go home in a hospital chair. Right. He won't be able to navigate around his house. So that's a process that I'm trying to work on, is trying to help. And now the therapist is like, "Oh, well, I want to do this and do that." Well, I want you to do all that for him. I want him to be taken care of. The problem is, at the end of the day, he's going to leave there in 30 days. There won't be a wheelchair for him in 30 days. They take 45 days minimum to get. And half the time you got to fight with the insurance for 45 days to get the chair in another 45 days. So they don't want to buy these nice things. They'll buy you the cheapest, but they won't buy you the nice one. So there are grants out there that people can go and find, and they can, write this nice grant letter and try and get granted the money to buy a nice chair. But you wouldn't believe it. Medicare guideline is 1 catheter per day. How many times do you go pee a day? 6?
5 or 6, yeah.
Okay. So a catheter, if you buy it out of your pocket, could range anywhere from $5 to $15. Imagine that 5 times a day, 6 times a day. So they don't even want to buy that. So there's a big issue with insurance. I mean, I'm glad we have insurance. We don't have pre-existing injury issues anymore. That's all gone away. So if you have an injury and you come and get insurance, great. But get a PPO no matter what you do. And most of these racers, they're underinsured. They don't have the proper insurance. A few years ago, and one of Jimmy's athletes crashed and broke both his arms, right? Had a secondary policy, $50,000 indemnity policy. That's worth nothing when you got to go in for dual surgeries and all this rebuild. You're talking $3, $4, $5, $6, $700,000, right? $50,000 ain't gonna cut it. Yeah. They don't know. So I would really like to get the opportunity down the line to educate the riders on insurance and what kind of insurance they should get, because there's tons of policies. Obviously, they got to find a policy they can afford. but they should not be on the racetrack. Nobody should be on a track or riding a dirt bike without an insurance policy, or they shouldn't even be on the track without a emergency medical transportation policy, which is like an air med policy. Those things are only like $180, $190. You can put your whole family on it. If something happened anywhere, they pick you up for free and they take you wherever you need to go. Nobody knows that stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got to educate the industry. I really hope that I can get involved more with like Supercross and motocross and go to like the press intros at the very beginning and talk to the riders and just talk to them about insurance and make sure you have the proper insurance. And here's the secondaries, how it works. And this is what your fall card will do. If you fill that out and you give that to them, they'll get you secondary insurance. There's all kinds of little things I want to teach these guys. So hopefully we'll get the chance to do that in the near future.
Well, you're freaking me out because I have Kaiser. So sounds like I get hurt, they're going to put me in a little red radio flyer wagon and shoot me out the door.
It's a nightmare. Kaiser is great if you're healthy.
Yeah.
If you're healthy, great. But if you're out racing and you're doing sports, it's the worst insurance. I hate to say that. I shouldn't be saying that online, but I'm just saying it's not the best insurance. Yeah, you want to get something like a Blue Cross Blue Shield, something like that.
Okay. Does this take an emotional toll on you? I mean, just like you said, every couple of times a week, you're probably getting something serious. And I know like I said, your personality is just, you're constantly pouring it out, but it's like at a point
you got to fill back up.
You got to fill back up.
I do have some people that do call once in a while and check on me. Clayton Roberts, the last athlete we helped before Matt, his future mother-in-law, Kathy Suter, they run the SRA, and she just calls me randomly here and there, and she checks on me, and it's really nice that she does that because it means a lot to me. My fiance is always there for me, and I'll just let it all out and vomit it all on her because, I have to get it out, but I definitely need to refill because it takes everything you have, you pour it out there, and you're just emptied. And, I mean, I go home, and I'm just exhausted. Like, there's days where I'm just flat out exhausted. I don't want to be bothered. And it's a tough job, but it's a blessing to do this job and to be able to help other people. I think that I just always look at that and go, you know what better job could I have than helping somebody else other than myself?
It's something I love about the fire department. I mean,
you're doing the same thing.
You nailed it. Where as a racer, it's just gimme. You know, you're constantly taking.
Yeah.
And so to just flip that back and it's a good feeling to help other people. Well, let's talk a little bit about what Road to Recovery has going on and coming up. Yep. Obviously, and I got the trophy back here. It's kind of our backdrop, but the Ryder Cup, which is our annual charity golf tournament that we put on with you guys, which is fun. What a fun day. If you guys have never been, it's awesome.
Come have a good time.
Good food, good people. Like the whole thing is just great.
Yep.
If you like to drink alcohol, you're going to like this.
You're going to like it. Yeah, you'll be
It seems like every hole has some type of
they've got some alcohol at every one of the holes, and they're passing it. They're like handing off. You want some, right? You want some? Oh God, yeah. And then everybody just gets worse as the day goes on. Their scores are just going higher and higher.
If you're a recovering alcoholic, you may want to pass on this. It's a lot of fun though. So that's coming up November. Yeah. And you guys have a ride day coming up as well in the fall.
Yeah, October 4th. Yep, October 4th. So I was going to say on that note, keep your eye on roadrecovery.com. We've got a lot of events, like David's saying here, coming up. And there's things you can get involved in, and you definitely don't want to miss out. We love your support. And, your support goes to helping these guys. So your support isn't going in my pocket or in Jimmy's pocket or anybody's pocket. It's going into the endowment to help us to help the athletes. And that's, people need to understand that's where the money goes. Jimmy doesn't even take $1 from the foundation. Not $1. Nothing. And I've been there long enough to know he doesn't. And basically we've got a small crew and we do a lot with a little. And we can use your support. But definitely keep an eye on the Road to Recovery website because we're going to be putting up the ride day. We're going to have a Robert Reisinger ride day on October 4th at Glen Helen. And we're still putting all the details together. Obviously, we're trying to get you and some riders out there. We want to make this an event that maybe becomes an annual event that people come to where you can pay a selected amount of money and get taught by the best guys in the racing industry. And we're talking big names like you, like Bob Hanna, you know, like Jeff Emig, you know, Grant Langston. So these guys. And Johnny Campbell, hopefully, maybe. And you can learn techniques, and you can learn safety. You can learn bike setup. You can get suspension. We'll have goggle guys out there teaching that. We'll have nutrition, probably Rhino Power or something. Who knows? So maybe we could have Ketone IQ.
Hey, we'll do some sampling out there with those guys. We're bringing all of our Elevate coaches, or most of them, to come out and coach for the day. So that's going to be very cool. You guys are always doing neat things. And remember, I try to drive this home for people. It's all tax deductible.
Yes, that's the best part. You want to donate to somebody, you get a tax receipt. It's unbelievable. And we're going to have some great items there to raffle off too. So there are going to be some really cool signed autograph stuff. And just talked to David Bailey today, and I think he'll give us a couple of his signed jerseys, those ones he's making. So we'll get those. And, yeah, we'll have some cool stuff. And it's going to a good cause. And it's not going to someone's pocket so they can go drive a Mercedes. It's to go to help the next guy that gets hurt and the next guy, because, as you and I know, it doesn't stop. It just keeps happening. Mm-hmm. So like like I said earlier, I've had 300 non-road recovery athletes that I've helped since 2017. 300, all paralyzed, and some TBI. And then probably my part of this since I started has probably been 100 athletes, I bet you. 50, 60, I don't know, maybe 60, 70. A lot of athletes.
Yeah.
It just doesn't stop. And the money, it's hard to come by, and we work very hard for it. So it's like we can use, just if people want to set up a monthly donation, it's tax deductible. You want to give $20 a month, cut out Starbucks every day, we'll take it. You know, whatever you want to do, we're down. You know, road recovery, we could definitely use it. We'll put it to good use. And, you know, my thing is, like, I want to build up a fund so we have the money to help these guys. Like, I can name off numerous guys right now that need equipment. Their insurance isn't buying it. Your insurance won't get you a chair, but every 6 years. The chair is destroyed in 3 years. Destroyed. Right? You're lucky if it rolls in 3 years. So you can imagine 6 years. You got 3 more years to go. Thing's going to just be, you're going to come in just last chance qualifier, dude. Wheels gone. You're shedding parts. So we can definitely use help. So
now you're definitely doing God's work, and we will do everything we can on our side to help. Closing this out here with you, bud. Tell me a little bit about your family. What do you guys go do for fun? Like, what do you do with your boys? What do they like to do?
I have an interesting relationship with my boys. They're at that age right now where my oldest just works at Disneyland, and it's a bummer because he just never has time to do anything. So it's a struggle. I want to go hang out and, do stuff with my kids, and I don't because there's nothing. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to hang out with their dad. I'm probably dorky. I always wondered if it was the wheelchair or something. I'm like, is this something I did? Is it the wheelchair? You just don't want to be around this? Is it like your friends don't like it? I don't know. But my kids kind of do their own thing. And my youngest, he lives at his mom's house, and I don't see him but once a month maybe. So it's a struggle. So I spend most of my time with my fiance and with her family and go hang out with them. And they live in Santa Clarita, and so I go out there and do stuff with them. But, my dream and my prayer is that my boys will come back around and we'll do stuff again. I was just a few years ago, Jared, my youngest, and I were doing go-karting together. It was super fun, but he said I was too serious. I'm like, where do I get that from?
Yeah, big Mike coming through.
Yeah, I'm like, Big Mike is showing his true colors. But we had a great time while we did it, and I'm hoping that down the line we can do something again like that. I'm getting to the point where I'm slowing down, and my body's a little more fragile now, and I just don't really want to take big risks anymore because I was like, I'll just get a go-kart, and we'll go to the new track in Wildemar, and we'll go rip it up. I don't really want to hurt myself, so I'm like, let's just do this, and I'll need somebody to console me. So it's like I got to be healthy to console other people.
That's right.
So that's all we do. We're kind of boring, and then I just ride my bicycle. I just got my bike back and started riding my hand cycle. I've got a mountain bike, and it's super cool because Ricky Johnson's been calling me. He wants me to come down here and ride with him. So I told him, I go, you got to make sure the trail's accessible. My bike's pretty wide, He sends me videos. He's like, you can do this, you can do this. So another legend and hero that I'm going to go mountain biking with. So I'm going to go with him in the next couple of weeks and just get out there and just get my blood circulating again on that and just go have fun. And then other than that, I just love my little scooter. I have this little scooter Road Recovery bought me that attaches and detaches to my chair. And it is the coolest thing. David Bailey says this is the game changer. Like he's always said that. He takes it downtown and all that. But I take it to every weekend. I'll go to the beach with her, and Denise and I will go just cruising, and it's beautiful. It's like I don't have to propel myself. I can just cruise, and it goes 18 miles on a charge.
That's wild.
So I like to just go do that with her and just get outside. And
wasn't that how David golfs? He attaches that thing, and he'll literally do 18 holes in it.
Yeah, he cruises, and there's points where he and I will have to hold on. Like he'll have to hold on to the golf cart to get up certain hills and stuff. But 90% of the course you can get around. And even when he's on the green and he like goes to putt, he'll make sure he lines it up first, and then he'll putt. Hopefully it goes in. Then he just goes straight off, and someone will grab his ball for him. So we don't leave marks on the green, because you don't want to be doing a burnout or something, you know.
Yeah.
But he's out there every week, like a couple times a week. So I'm too busy. I would love to do that with him more, but I just don't have time, you know. Too many athletes right now that are hurt.
That's brutal. Well, the last question we ask all our guests is, how do you want to be remembered in this sport?
Well, I just want to be remembered as just a good person, you know. I want to go down and just have people have nice things to say. So if I burned a bridge somewhere, I pray that they'll forgive me for that. But I just want to go down and just say thank you for the opportunity, you know. I've done my best. So hopefully people will see the real me and just go, yep, Mike was a good dude and he left a good mark. Yeah, I don't want people to forget about me, you know. So well, hopefully they don't.
You know, you've impacted a lot of people's lives, and you know what you're doing here is probably even more so. But I just know you're just like you're like sunshine walking into a room. You know? So I hope that doesn't sound too, you know, gay, but like
no.
Every time I see you, I smile.
I'm just
always
grateful.
very good to see you.
It's just God is good, and He's given me this opportunity. And you know, people ask me this, Dave, and we'll close this, is that they go, if your God is so good, how come you don't walk anymore? And I said, well, for one, God didn't put me in this chair. For two, it's not His responsibility to take me out. For three, this is a better ministry probably. And I've had to come to terms with that, and that's where I stand. And I go, you know what? I get up every day. I thank God for the opportunity. I've got so many medical issues I've had in the last few years. I just had kidney surgery and stuff, and it's been pretty gnarly. It's been since last October. I had a rough go, and I just kept plugging and plugging. You just have to. You get up and you keep going. But I just wake up so thankful for everything I have. Like, I love my job. I love my family, my friends, the industry. It's just, I don't know. I don't have anything bad to say. I just want to see this country turn around and go the right direction. So that's what I want to see. So I'm praying for that.
Yeah, all of us are.
Yes, I'm praying for that. But I appreciate this opportunity. This has been a blessing to me, and thank you for what you guys do. We're so grateful for your support as well, and I'm thankful for your friendship. And, yeah, thank you.
I love you, buddy.
Okay,
Thanks
brother.
for coming
You
on.
too, man.
All right.
Thank you.
Stick around. We'll be back to wrap up the show. We'll be right back. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that show with Mike Young. What a great guy. You know, the stuff he's been through, I don't think many of us could really put ourselves in those shoes unless you're one of the people who's living it. So heavy stuff at times. Apologize for the little breakdown there, but it is what it is. He's a great human being, and I loved going through his story. I don't think a lot of people know just all of the things he did accomplish and how involved he was in the sport. He's not a household name, but he was a stud here in Southern California in the 80s and 90s, and you can go to the Grand Prix and you know, run top 10 in the GPs. That's pretty impressive. So incredible career, and I think what he's doing now is even more important. So stoked that he made the time to come in. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please support our sponsors. Yamaha, we wouldn't be here without those guys in the Blue Crew studio. They make it possible, and all of our great sponsors, you know. Check them out and support them so we can keep bringing these to you. We appreciate it. See you next time.
Yamaha is the industry leader in two-wheeled fun and performance. Celebrating 50 years of YZ in 2024, the Blue Crew is still dominating shootouts and competitions. Yamaha, revs your heart.
Troy Lee Designs is the leader in off-road motocross apparel and style. So whether you're looking for a cool new paint job for your helmet, maybe your name and number on your helmet lettered on, You're looking for new gear. You're looking for mountain bike gear, off-road gear. They've got the brand new Scout line in GP and SE models. Troy Lee Designs has it all. They've been leading this industry for decades, and they're going to continue to do it. Check out TroyLeeDesigns.com. SKDA is a moto graphics and seat covers company with several offices based around the globe. For too long, bikes and graphics have all looked the same. They just start to blend together. SKDA is working to change that. With super clean and unique design work, a bike with SKDA graphics stands out in a crowd and adds a touch of art to the world of moto. Hey, we need that. SKDA prides itself on providing premium customer service both before and after the sale is made. Visit SKDA online to view the current product range and get in touch with their team to get your bike refreshed. I want to just make a mention here that these guys, not only is their design way outside the box, very, very cool, they'll work with you on custom things. The products are incredible. Okay, they'll speak for themselves. But what's really awesome, and you'll notice this the minute you order one of these, man, they give you an email saying, hey, the product's been shipped. Hey, the product is here. It landed in this spot. Hey, it's coming today. Hey, your product's been delivered. They just so good about staying in touch with you and letting you know where it's at. Customer service is 100%, and that's just something that's rare these days. Check out SKDA. Here at the Whiskey Throttle Show, we're all about supporting brands that support our sport. And there's one tire company that has never walked away from the sport of motocross and supercross, and it's Dunlop. When times got tough and the economy took a crash, Dunlop stepped up and stayed with our sport to support it and the athletes and individuals that love it. Their MX-53 line and MX-33 lines absolutely dominate this sport. Every national championship at the pro level has been won in the last decade, and nearly every single amateur national championship at Loretta Lynn's has been won on a Dunlop. So if you're looking for high performance, you're looking for amazing quality, and you're looking to support a brand that never turns its back on our sport, there's only one choice for you, and it's Dunlop. Pro Circuit is the leader in aftermarket performance and quality. Whether you're looking for a little more horsepower out of your engine, some quality hard parts to improve the way your bike feels and looks, better handling through suspension or linkage arms, Pro Circuit is where you need to stop. It's your one-stop shop. You can go in there and get everything you need to make your motorcycle go from average to exceptional. Pro Circuit's got enough number one plates on their wall to side an entire home, and there's a reason for that. They're very, very good at what they do. The highest quality products with one goal in mind, and that's winning. Check out ProCircuit.com. Nihilo Concepts is leading the way in aftermarket hard parts. With their secondary on-switch device, something that was much needed in this sport, they've been innovating and bringing new products to market. Their latest is the new Nihilo Run Cool brake pistons. They're designed to be stronger than stock and provide exceptional cooling performance with less brake drag. Most OEM calipers pistons are made from aluminum that just can't hold up to the heat and extreme demands of serious racing. When they get hot, the aluminum will distort, causing loss of hydraulic pressure and brake failure. Nihilo's Run Cool pistons limit the area that boiling hot hydraulic fluid is able to come in contact with the piston, leaving 2/3 of the piston volume in open air with breather holes to enhance the cooling ability. It's made of a proprietary stainless blend, which is better at dissipating heat. You have issues with brake fade or brake failure, check out Nihilo Concepts among their many amazing hard parts and carbon fiber parts and titanium. NihiloConcepts.com. Seat Concepts is the leader in motorcycle saddles. If you're looking for a new cover or a new seat entirely, Seat Concepts is the place to go. They make custom seat foams catered to your height, weight, riding ability, riding type. They also have waterproof covers and foams that will not break down if you ride in a lot of inclement weather. And they pride themselves on being much more comfortable than OEM or any other aftermarket company. If you're looking for a new seat or a new cover, Seat Concepts, there's nothing better. Need to replace something on your bike that's worn out? Look no further than ProX. These guys aim to make everything OEM quality or better at an affordable price. And they've also got some new products coming. So right now, chains, sprockets, anything inside the engine internally, air filters. If it wears out, ProX makes it, and they make it at a quality level that's OEM or better. And they've got some new things coming that are awesome. A complete engine rebuild kits for the Polaris RZR 800s. Need to replace something on your bike that's worn out? Look no further than ProX. These guys aim to make everything OEM quality or better at an affordable price. And they've also got some new products coming. So right now, chains, sprockets, anything inside the engine internally, air filters. If it wears out, ProX makes it, and they make it at a quality level that's OEM or better. And they've got some new things coming that are awesome. A complete engine rebuild kits for if you've got a little Grom that's looking to get started in the motorcycle world, the best way to get them going is on a Stasic bike. They've got multiple sizes, so from your very young Groms to those who are a little more grown up, you can start them safely. They've got controls that allow you to control the speed so he can't get going too quick. They can touch the ground. There's not a lot of noise to distract them. It's the perfect way to get your child involved in motorcycling at a very young age. And if you've got a kid who's already out ripping, there's series popping up all over. For those of you in Southern California, go to www.ameminicross.com and join their local series. If you're outside of this state, contact your local track and ask them about starting a Stasic class at your local track. Get over to stasic.com and check out all they've got going on. And finally, last but not least, Specialized bicycles. If you are in the market to start pedaling, this is where you want to start. They've got great entry-level bikes all the way up to the Cadillac, the new Levo e-bike, anything in between, man. It doesn't matter what kind of riding you're doing. Go check out and start with Specialized. Don't waste your time on something that's going to break. The derailler's not going to shift after a couple months. Get something quality. These guys make it. Specialized leads that industry.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Whiskey Throttle Show. Be sure to like and subscribe to get notified when new shows go up. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And visit whiskeythrottlemedia.com for additional content.